I'll make sure we're live on Twitch. Hello, friends. Hello, friend.
Is this yours?
That's Mark. Hello. Test. Go Raiders. What's up, man?
Good morning.
Guess who's back? Back again.
I just tried to type a comment. It wouldn't take it.
Really? Oh no, I got it. It says Miller and Moulton. It says morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got
good.
it. That's weird.
Does it not like display it? I guess. I don't know. We're on in 15 seconds.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Not really. Nope.
Huh.
Nope. It's like unbelievably.
I'll turn myself up.
Well, there you go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Things a little different today and tomorrow. First, Mark's not here. And secondly, I made the 350-mile drive from Northeast Florida to Southwest Florida. I'm in the cozy confines with Felipe this fine morning. And Felipe is on camera for those of you who do take us in or want to take us in on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv camera. So young Felipe has his own camera now because we're a 2-camera shoot. And so that usually means camera on Miller, camera on Moulton. And so now it's camera on Moulton and camera on Felipe.
It's about time. I mean, been only asking it for a year and a half now.
We understand that. Okay. I mean, you're 22. It's all about you. Just ask you. I mean, those of us of a certain age know that.
My diva wide receiver is talking. I'm so
There's
sorry.
no doubt. It's one of the reasons why I've always been fond of you from day one. You have a diva wide receiver part of you. And I, of course, am attracted to that. I will try to frame up your shot a little bit better. It's very wide. I don't know if that anything can be done about that. If not, that's fine.
I was thinking the side angle, but I just have it right in front of you.
And to show how, we're not technologically advanced on this show. I'm the fat guy. I'm on a tight shot. You're the good-looking, skinny, young guy. You're on a wide shot. Okay. In theory, obviously, we would switch that around. So
I have to show off my Trash Panda shirt,
It is very nice. It is very nice. Love this time of year, driving down with the wife and we've got a lot of business we got to take care of. We got to close certain things and, do certain things, meeting with the tax person today. It's a very busy, hopefully productive day before dinner. And it'll be a special dinner with a few folks we have not seen in a while. But on the way down here, she's like, is it madness? And I go, well, it depends on what your definition of madness is. And she looked at me and she said, you know what I'm asking you. And I go, no, for you, it is not madness. It is not madness until Sunday night, because my daughter's already texted me once and said, how do I print out the brackets? And I'm like, we have to have brackets first. All right. This is the week leading up to this is how the people get in the tournament. We have our own brackets. We have an ACC bracket, a Big East bracket, an SEC bracket. So that's where we're at. I happen to love this week. Like, I enjoy this week more than I enjoy the play-in games. I mean, nothing beats the first day or two of the tournament, but Tuesday, Wednesday in Dayton loves it. Whatever. Love this week, though. Love the fact that basically Wisconsin season ended last night.
Right.
All right. Now, I'm not saying I was rooting against Wisconsin, but you know what I mean. That a first, second round, a conference tournament game in which you lose, you're done.
Tickets are either punched or burned.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And I love that we had that last night. We had a Big 12 play-in game, if you will, last night. West Virginia and Texas Tech. West Virginia was probably on the good side of the bubble. Tech was on the bad side of the bubble. Well, the good side won, so certainly the bad side of the bubble's out. And for that matter, they got rid of their coach after the game. And speaking of that, the big story in sports, we had Seth Everett on yesterday, who is a proud Syracuse alum, and we asked him, we said, what is it that you want to see happen? And this was around 20-9 in the morning yesterday. What is it you want to see happen with Boeheim? And he said, well, there's a couple ways we could go about this, but what I'd really like to see happen is that whenever the season ends, and he was optimistic they would beat Wake Forest yesterday in the ACC tournament because they had beaten them over the weekend. But he said, whenever it ends, that they just politely tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, it's over.
We literally said on the show yesterday, he's been there too long.
Right. But when you have an institution as a coach, it is borderline traumatic as to, think about how Coach K went out. Coach K went out going to the Final Four. Very rare. Wooden went out winning it all. Very rarely does the legendary coach go out with, damn near hoisted on the player's shoulders, so to speak.
Right. And
so you're having to figure out, how are we going to do this? Think about in Alabama football. When the day comes, now, first off, it's difficult right now to imagine them even slipping. Because Nick has put together the run every bit as good, actually better than the run that Bobby put together at Florida State. Bobby had those 15 years where the worst they were in the country was top 4. And if you think about it, only the top 2 got to play for the national championship near the end of that run. And then we had the bowl system during the majority of that run. Think of how many times Bobby and those Florida State teams would have been in just a 4-team playoff. He, quote unquote, only won 2 national championships. He probably would have played for like 7 or 8 of them those years. If you really think about it, if we had the system in place now, then, Florida State's literally like Alabama in the playoff every year. Every year they would have been in the playoff.
Florida State and Miami.
Yes.
And
actually, Miami started sooner because Miami started in 83 and Bobby didn't really get it going until around 87. All right. But also Miami had the period there in the mid-90s. They had a 4-year darkness. Bobby had 15 straight years, top 4, 15 in a row. Well, that's what Nick's done. Nick needed a year at starting in 2008 and now through 2022. That's 15 consecutive seasons. All right. Nick's basically been in the playoff, if you will, top 4 pretty much every year, like the 2013 team when they lost on the kick 6. Well, we didn't have top 4 then. We only had top 2. If we had top 4, Alabama would have been in the playoff.
Despite losing to Auburn?
Yeah, of course. Like they weren't one of the 4 best teams in the country.
That's true.
They were the 2-time defending national champion. They were 11-0 before the guys running down the sidelines. You don't think they're in the playoff? Yeah, they just would have been a 3 seed. Instead, okay, Auburn got in as the 2 seed. It probably would have been a rematch in the semis.
Who did Auburn beat in the SEC championship game that year?
Missouri.
Oh, my.
Yeah, Missouri went back-to-back years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, in fact, it was like their second and third years in the league. I mean, that's why A&M and Missouri actually had a great start to the SEC. Johnny Manziel brought A&M into the SEC, and then Missouri wins the East in back-to-back years.
Who did they have?
They had an excellent defensive line. Okay, Greg Hardy and a few others. They were really good at the defensive line. They get pressure on the passer, and they were still getting kids from Texas then. Right. All right. So, and offensively, they were good as well. Like they scored 40-something in the title game and lost.
Damn.
But you have the legendary coach, and how is it that you're going to handle it? And so Syracuse handled it in-house and kept it quiet. I mean, people were asking Boeheim after the game, is this your final game? What's going on? And it was already done. It was done. I mean, Syracuse had determined when you lose, Jimmy, you're done. And we already know who the replacement is and, have a good life.
Do you have more respect for whether it's an athlete or a coach who says before the season, this is my last year, or once it's over, it's like, by the way, I'm done?
I had no problem with, if you think about it, Roy Williams very quietly, it was over, said, you know what, I think North Carolina needs a better coach. I didn't have a problem with Coach K in the farewell tour. A lot of people did, thought it was egocentric and what have you. Well, I don't know what to tell you. He's a pretty big deal in the sport. I'm okay with a celebration, if you will. He's contributed a lot.
You have to be worthy of the celebration.
And I think he qualifies.
Yeah, only one of the winningest coaches ever.
Now, I will say, if Syracuse was still in the Big East, because Boeheim and Syracuse made their bones in the Big East. If they were still in the Big East, and this is how Syracuse handled it, I actually think Big East fans would have been like, man, you can't do it this way. I mean, he's a legend. He helped build this conference. I mean, we wanted to honor him at every, road game. He may not have wanted it, but we wanted to do that. But Syracuse in the ACC has always been an odd fit, and Boeheim hated it, quite frankly. I mean, there is, for those who don't like Boeheim and don't like Syracuse, and it's a beautiful irony because 10 years ago, when the Big East was crumbling and Syracuse was leaving and going to the ACC, Boeheim had the famous quote in which he was asked, and the reporter thought they were going to get a great answer in an excited, enthusiastic way, kind of like, hey, your thoughts are going to the ACC. And Boeheim's like, yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, who wouldn't want to trade having their conference tournament at Madison Square Garden in New York City and going out, and he starts rattling off all the great restaurants in the city, as opposed to having their conference tournament in Greensboro and going to a Zaxby's afterwards. Okay. And that was his quote. Well, irony of ironies, where does Jim Boeheim's career end? It ended in Greensboro last night. And so for those that don't like him and don't like them, they're like, there you go. Now that's payback. That's how we do things here on Tobacco Road. Take that with you.
That's funny. I mean, he's got a good point.
But like with, and we'll get more into this next segment. All right. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. We got a great show lined up today. Mark Packer is going to join us from the ACC Network. We'll talk about Boeheim and Syracuse and also little ACC. Thank you very much. We'll talk plenty of football, our weekly guest with Pro Football Network coming up next hour. Also, Mark Dominik, former general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He'll join us at the top of our bonus hour. So if you don't get the bonus hour in Lake City and Tampa St. Pete and Port Charlotte and Venice and what have you, well, you'll have to hit up a podcast, floridasportsnetwork.com, if you know what I mean. Mark is off until Monday. Philippe and I, well, we're holding down the fort here. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Johnny Mac in the Twitch chat. There's a good Waffle House in Greensboro. Now, are the best Waffle Houses in Florida or in Georgia?
I think they're a little trashier in Georgia. I love the one that's the major road that you take into Athens coming from the south. And there's a fork in the road, and the fork is the Waffle House.
Of course.
And they both lead to the same place. So it doesn't matter if you go this way or go this way. And so, but the fork is the Waffle House. It's awesome.
Oh, it's amazing.
We traded SEC on CBS gear for Waffle House gear.
No.
Yep. 2016, it was Vern's last year. And so, and we kind of knew Vern had two spotters, Chuck and, oh God. Can't believe I'm forgetting the name of the other spotter. I had a good night's sleep too. Could see him and everything. And so we knew it was probably going to be our last time together doing one of these things. And so we brought the SEC on CBS gear, and we said to the people who worked at the Waffle House, we want to make a trade. And they're like, and then we showed them the gear, and they said, okay. And so they went in the back, and all of a sudden they started bringing out Waffle House gear, treating us like we were new employees. And so we put the shirts on and the hats, and then we drove to the stadium and got out of the car, and there was Vern standing there, and we all walked out dressed like we were Waffle House employees, and he loved it.
It's so funny.
Exactly. When you get to the fork in the road, take it, Nick.
Vern,
Very Yogi Berra of you.
Vern, what toppings do you want on your eggs? Onions.
Oh, it's Raph. Raph's onions.
There you go.
I told Vern it's the only thing he ever disappointed me about. I begged him for 11 years. I said, because for the longest time he was the B crew in basketball. So it was him and Raph. Because it was Nance and Packer, then it was Nance and Clark Kellogg, and then it was Nance and Grant Hill and what have you. But it was Vern and Raph were the B team. And so I would say to him, I go, listen, I'll be a runner. I'll make 150 a day. I go, but I just want to do a regional or something with you and Raph. Because I just wanted to hang out till 4 a.m. with Raph. I wanted to close a bar with Raph.
Nice.
And Vern was never able to pull it off.
I need to go to an NCAA tournament.
They're in Orlando this year.
First round?
Yeah, Thursday, Saturday. Now, you could probably get tickets. I got a credential.
Oh, my goodness. You're going, I'm assuming?
I don't know. But I got a credential.
It's at Amway?
Filled out the forms and everything.
Damn.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting. You see who they're going to put there. Like, will they put the Canes?
Right.
Will they put the Canes in Orlando?
Mm-hmm. Now,
the last time FGCU made the tournament, they were in Orlando. They played Florida State, and they played them in Orlando.
Oh, yeah. I remember the 2017, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The 3-14 matchup.
Mm-hmm. What determines, or is it just random, but like what determines where teams play in like the regions in the tournament?
The tournament lies.
It doesn't make sense.
I think it's completely random. All right. They've been worried about attendance, and they've tried to have a couple of regional teams be there, to sell more tickets, but it's
not always the case.
Well, think about it. Like, who is good? Like, would they put Alabama in Orlando?
I mean, they should.
Well, but then again, I don't know what the other 7 locations are.
You got 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
It's 21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark off until Monday. Felipe going to help me hold down the fort until then. You can text the show, 21,000. Now, remember, I'm now in charge technologically. So I'll try to get to the text line so often as I can. But, that involves going from one screen to another, and you know who you're dealing with here. I could disconnect the whole Twitch setup, while trying to read your texts. I mean, we've already had one crisis this morning. We typed in the password incorrectly 3 consecutive times and got locked out of the computer. Yes, that's what we're dealing with here. All right. People wonder what Mark's role is on the show. And let me tell you, for as much as he contributes on air, behind the scenes, he is the show. He is the show. So we're flying. The landings are going to be shaky, is what we're saying. If we were an airline, we'd be letting everybody know we got the backup team in there. We think we can land these planes, but, they could be a little rougher landing than you're used to. That's all we're saying.
That's always nice when you're getting ready. All right, let's set this up. Let's log in. Oh, can't even do that.
Yeah. Listen, I don't want to say I was concerned, but Felipe showed up for work today and he said, "Oh man, I forgot you were going to be here." I'm like, "Boy, really?" We only talked about it all week.
I was like, I almost forgot. I was like, oh, wait.
No, you said I forgot, in fact. But correction, we're a half hour into the show, not even, and I already have to correct a mistake that I made. I said Greg Hardy. He was actually an Ole Miss guy, not a Missouri guy. But the guys I was trying to think of, you asked Missouri and what did they have? And the strength of the team was their defensive line. They had Coney Ely, all right. They had Michael Sam, all right. And who was the other guy that they had? Let's see. I had it down here. Marcus Golden. All right. So they had 3 really good defensive linemen that they could have on the field at one time. And they, I think, led the SEC in sacks that year. Wow. So, and they had an experienced team, really a junior dominated team, because then that same team came back, and went to the SEC title game the very next year. So, but talking about how Syracuse moved on from Jim Boeheim yesterday, and they did so very quickly, very quietly. Boeheim didn't handle it well, wouldn't even answer a question after the game. It was like, so are you retiring? And he goes, well, I didn't say that. But then he said, well, I gave my retirement speech after the game on Saturday. And then they're like, so does that mean you're retiring? He goes, well, that's up to the university. And meanwhile, the university apparently is like watching the press conference and just waiting until he's done before they hit send on the press release. I mean, that's literally apparently what was going on. And so it's also fitting. Syracuse lost in Greensboro, all right, because Boeheim hated the place, the longtime home of the ACC, even though it's not going to be much longer. And B, Boeheim goes out the way he's been with the media for his 47 years. He goes out like a crusty curmudgeon. I mean, he did. It couldn't be smooth at the end. He couldn't have just smiled and said, this is my last game. I'm sure there'll be an announcement from the university coming up in a matter of minutes. Something like that.
Well, it's because he was in Greensboro.
Yeah. Well, and they lost at the buzzer and the what. And he's Jim Boeheim. I mean, that's his thing. That was his thing. I worked in Binghamton for a handful of years. Binghamton's about 75 miles south of Syracuse. So we would make the trip for football and basketball a decent amount of time. We had a lot of Syracuse fans in the southern tier of New York. And Boeheim also would do the banquet tours in the spring and the summer. And it was really tough to show up at an event and have him be on his A game. I just had so many people saying he's really funny and the whole deal and this, that, and the other thing. But once you showed up with a camera and a microphone, all right, and especially if he didn't know you, there was no shot. You didn't get, the Jim Boeheim out on the golf course guy, who apparently is hysterical. I mean, seriously, like Kevin Love yesterday after the Heat game last night talked glowingly about Jim Boeheim because he was on Team USA. Boeheim was an assistant, and Love said, pardon the expression, I love the guy. Okay. He was funny. We drank wine together, awesome stories. He goes, and not only that, he was a really good coach. Okay. And meanwhile, there's those of us that are reading it going, who the hell are you talking about? Jim Boeheim? Come on. You got to be kidding. But as was mentioned in our Twitch chat room, think about even how the Dolphins moved on from Shula. They made the playoffs his last year. Granted, I think it was 9-7 and they snuck in and they got beat. And they had a nice 3-year run in 92, 93, 94. They were legitimate contenders in the AFC. Couldn't get by Buffalo. And who else could, by the way? But
sounds pretty familiar.
Those were really good teams. They hosted the AFC title game in 92. All right. In 93. All right. They were 9-2 at one point. Marino gets hurt. They lose their last 5 games of the year. They miss the playoffs. 94. They're up 21-3 in San Diego in the second round of the playoffs. They're going to go to the AFC championship game, and they lose a 1-point heartbreaker, and the kicker misses the kick at the end of the game as well. That would have won it, in which Marino would have gone to Pittsburgh and played the Steelers in Pittsburgh for the AFC title game. But that was a nice 3-year run. And then by 95, it had kind of petered out. They made the playoffs. They got drilled, and Shula got forced out. Don Shula got forced out. Tom Landry. Now, he had 2 really bad seasons. I mean, Boeheim goes 17-15 in his last year. I mean, it was treated as if they went 9-23, by the way. But Syracuse did go 17-15 his final year. And he gets, I mean, unceremoniously just pushed to the side. Boom.
Well, he is a legendary coach. But when was the last time that Syracuse made it past the Sweet 16?
Right before the pandemic, you'll have to look up the year. I don't know if it's 17 or 19, but they had it as an 11 seed. They had a Cinderella run to the Final Four. And I thought it was like 6 years ago. All right. And it was a team that, quite frankly, on Selection Sunday, people were going, I don't think Syracuse deserves a bid. And they got in, and I believe they went to the Final Four. I thought they beat Tony Bennett and Virginia in the region final, actually, when Bennett was still trying to get over the hump. So I don't know if this is like 16 or 17 or something like that, but he had a Cinderella run to the Final Four, I thought, like 6 years ago.
I think it was 2018.
Okay. So,
yeah.
And then I think he made 1 Sweet 16 since. But that was his last big out of nowhere run. You know, we had the great, I think it was 10 years ago in the Big East tournament, they had the legendary run where, Jerry McNamara and company carried him through. One of the biggest surprises, not only is Boeheim out, but McNamara didn't get the job. Adrian Autry did. Longtime assistant, been there longer than Jerry Mack. And I mean, that's the other thing that the school did too. I mean, a lot of times they'll just give Boeheim his day. It's the other thing the university didn't do. Now, maybe Jim didn't want them to. Syracuse could have announced heading into the ACC tournament, this is it. But they didn't. And then also, they didn't just announce Boeheim yesterday and then let Adrian Autry get his moment in the sun 2 days from now or next week or whatever. No, it was like, we thank Jim for his service, and Autry's our new coach. Oh, by the way, enjoy the offseason.
There's only one NBA player on that team, by the way, in 2018.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why they forced him out. He was not recruiting at the level he was before. Starting 5 is next. David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
One thing, that's another thing I really like. I've always liked about Jim Boeheim and Syracuse is again, they haven't really had these crazy names on their team, at least in the last 10 years. Yet they're still one of the most successful programs in college basketball, and they make the tournament almost every year. Like the best player that's come out of Syracuse in terms of how they panned out in the NBA in the last 10 years is Jeremy Grant.
Who?
Jeremy Grant,
Mm-hmm.
best player. But I remember they had, because I'll never forget it.
But
'cause-
that's if you talk to a Syracuse person. Like, do you know Shane, who works here? He's the business guy,
Oh,
business
yeah.
manager.
yeah,
He's a huge Syracuse fan. Okay, and to him, the first 30 plus years of Boeheim's run, they had all conference players. They had NBA guys. I mean, the Pearl Washingtons, the Ronnie Cycles of the world. I mean,
Carmelo Anthony.
Well, but that's before even they got Carmelo.
Ronnie
okay.
Cycli.
Yeah.
He was
The
was annoying.
87 team that lost the championship game. He was their best player.
wow.
Yeah.
Wasn't he the first draft pick in Heat history?
Think
he was.
I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that Syracuse had this one guy named CJ Fair. I don't know if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, he was a baller. He averaged like 15 a game, but he just never went to the NBA.
And for whatever reason, that 2-3 zone befuddled people for 30 years.
Yep. They do the same. They do the same thing in Miami. Heat, not Hurricanes.
DC, that 87 Syracuse team was a great team. And it looked for the longest time like that was going to be as close as he came.
Johnny Mac. That's because the Heat are Trae Young's kryptonite. We make him look bad.
Well, it's looking like that's going to be the play-in. Heat Hawks 7-8.
We'll win that.
Okay. It means you get Celtics, by the way. It means you'd play.
We'll lose that.
you'd play the 2 seed right now. You'd get Boston.
Sorry, Miami will lose that.
Oh, when they're going to lose, they're Miami? When
No.
they're going to win, they're we?
No, it's just in my head. I'm thinking Mark's here. I'm just gonna give you.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Well, in DC, it also helped that they missed those 1-and-1s in the final minute.
I love how you guys try to strip my Miami Heat fandom.
I don't.
Or Mark does.
I don't. You can't ever do again what you did though in the conference final when they lost Game 5. You can never do that.
It's just it was so bad.
Listen, I'll give you war stories, all right? Best Rangers team of my lifetime. They ended up winning the cup, but in the conference final, they lost Game 5 at home to the Devils, and they were down 3-2, having to go to New Jersey.
94.
And the odds were, here comes another playoff disappointment and the whole deal.
And they won in Game 7.
That's when Messier had the hat trick and delivered and ended up winning. And believe me, it was gut-wrenching for a day and a half. Gut-wrenching. I'm like, I cannot believe the best team of my lifetime is not going to win. But you cannot abandon them. You go down with the ship.
That is why Jimmy Butler will forever be one of my favorite basketball players
because he went to
of
Boston,
my life.
Because he went to Boston and he said, "We are not losing.
We are going back to Miami."
And that's why
Game 7.
That's why I would. There was a chance. Mark tried to get Messier on the show once, and Mark said, "If I get Messier on the show," and I said, "I might be speechless." Mark's on the air. Mark asked me, "What would you do if Mark Messier walked in the door right now?" I said, "I'd probably start crying."
Oh, yeah.
Well, Sherman Douglas in college was not underrated, but NBA, a lot of Syracuse guys did not pan out.
Greg Monroe. Yeah. Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark is off until Monday. Felipe and I holding down the fort for a bunch of reasons. But when I knew Mark was going to be off today and off tomorrow, then wife and I rearranged our life to come to Southwest Florida. There was a lot of things that we had to take care of in our former home. And so we're here for a day and a half doing that. But it also means that we're in studio together. So if you check us out on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv page or channel, okay, we are actually, Felipe and I, in the same studio together. Dalton Miller will join the show 1 hour from now from Pro Football Network. Mark Dominik will join us in the bonus hour, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers general manager Mark Packer to join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, he from the ACC Network. 21 minutes before the hour, it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Well, number 1 this time of year is often college basketball. And, oh, by the way, Syracuse forcing out Jim Boeheim. That's the other thing. It does seem to be more of a force out than Boeheim quietly, it's time, retiring and going off into the sunset. Jim has certainly given the indication that he wanted to keep on keeping on, and this was a Syracuse decision. But Boeheim and Syracuse lost at the buzzer to Wake Forest yesterday, 77-74 in the ACC tournament. And within an hour, Syracuse announced, yeah, that was it. He's done. 1,015 wins. If you talk to a few big Boeheim Syracuse fans, they say, no. It's 1,116. He had 101 wins taken away from him by the NCAA. A lot of people that want Boeheim, Bowden, Paterno, Patino, Calipari, they all have had wins vacated over the years. And I will say, especially where we are now with, let's face it, we can legally pay for players. I mean, that's where we are now. I mean, the NCAA is wanting you to hide it and not have it be pay for play. You need to do NIL a certain way. Okay, so it's not pay for play until they sign. Then it's pay for play. Got it. Okay. So if I was running the NCAA, if I was I think Charlie Baker is the new president, former governor of a New England state. All right, think Massachusetts. I would give everybody their wins back. I would give everybody their banners back. I would just say, listen, that was then, this is now. Okay, let's put it all in the past. And besides, I don't know how much longer we're even going to be around. So let's just end this once for all.
There seems to be so much hypocrisy in the NCAA.
No. Come on, Felipe.
What?
Please. So anyway, Boeheim out after 47 years as head coach of his alma mater. There's a very good chance we will never see that again. I mean, first off, 47 years at a Power 6, because in basketball they say 6 because of the Big East, at a Power 6 school, 47 years as head coach. Will we ever see that? I mean, remember, he was head coach at Syracuse a handful of years longer than Coach K was head coach at Duke.
He's 2 years older than him, too.
But it also now means, who's the guy at a Power 6 school who's been there the longest? It's Izzo.
Yeah.
28 years, March of 95 is when Tom Izzo got the Michigan State job. There were 3 automatic bids that were handed out last night, or earned, I should say. Texas A&M Corpus Christi, for the second year in a row, won the Southland. They beat Northwestern State by 4. Colgate, who dominated the Patriot League all year, and there were some that were arguing they should get in no matter what. Well, they're going to go in as Patriot League champions. They beat Lafayette by 18. And Montana State held off the Cinderella story of championship week. Northern Arizona was 9-22 at the start of the Big Sky tournament and rattled off 3 wins in 4 days and played Montana State tough. But Montana State, the number 1 overall seed, won the Big Sky by 7. Yesterday was a big bubble-licious day. Wisconsin's bubble seemingly burst. Ohio State was a 2-point favorite in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and Vegas knows what they're talking about. The Buckeyes beat the Badgers by 8. Texas Tech, West Virginia. West Virginia seen as on the good side of the bubble. Texas Tech on the bad side. Well, the good side won, 78-62. Texas Tech likely not to be in, and not only that, they got rid of their head coach after the game. North Carolina needs to go on an ACC tournament run. Well, they started it in an impressive fashion. They beat BC by 24. Is this the last ever meeting of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State for a long time? First round of the Big 12 tournament, the Cowboys, who are on the bubble, beat the Sooners 57-49. Pac-12, Arizona State desperately needed to beat Oregon State because they are firmly on the bubble, and they did by 6. Conference USA, FIU saw their season end in overtime to Louisiana Tech. Bethune saw their season end in the SWAC quarterfinals to Grambling, and in all likelihood, Patrick Ewing's last game as Georgetown head coach. They lost to Villanova by 32.
Ooh.
Remember, his last collegiate game was against Villanova for the title in 85. And if his last game as head coach is against Nova and they lose by 32, the Hoyas went 7-25 this season. The buyout is close to $10 million, but the thought is Georgetown has to bite the bullet and move on. A whole bunch of games scheduled today that are very meaningful. First in state, Miami plays Wake at noon. UCF plays SMU at 2:30. The Gators play Mississippi State at 1 o'clock. South Florida hosts East Carolina at 12:30. Now, the bubble games. Rutgers, Michigan at noon. Carolina, Virginia at 7. Arkansas, Auburn, because Auburn now is very close to the bubble, is at 7. Arizona State, USC is at 11. Penn State, Illinois is at 6:30. And FAU will begin their Conference USA tournament run by taking on Western Kentucky at 6:30. The thought is FAU is in, but you don't want to lose in your first conference tournament game. They hold it against teams like FAU as much as they can. NBA, excuse me, Heat got 28 from Jimmy Butler, but they lost at home to Cleveland 104-100. Miami is 3 back of Brooklyn for the 6th seed with only 15 games left. I mean, think about it. If the Heat go 10-5 the rest of the way, all Brooklyn has to do is be above 500, and the Heat are in the play-in. So time is running out on Miami to avoid the play-in, which would likely be against Atlanta. So last night was supposed to be Kevin Durant's debut in Phoenix. Did you hear what happened?
He rolled his ankle in warmups.
In warmups.
Shooter.
Right.
Imagine being a fan. Imagine sitting courtside.
I know.
Is he on the ground? Is he grabbing his ankle?
What? Not only that, most of you are not yet in the stadium. So you're outside or you're on the concourse, you're having a beer and all that, and all of a sudden you get to your seat and what have you, and it's like they announce the starting lineup. It's like, where's KD? Oh, you know how much I paid for this ticket? What?
No, but imagine watching warmups.
Yes.
Oh my God.
There's either way.
They're helping him in the locker room.
Right.
He's not going to play.
Phoenix beat OKC and that's the other thing. He started with OKC. Well, actually, he started with Seattle for a year and then OKC. But anyway, Phoenix won by 31. Durant hurt, did not play. Atlanta edged Washington 122-120. And with Chicago winning in Denver, Chicago's just a game behind Washington for the final play-in spot in the East. New Orleans beat Dallas by 7. Dallas is now tied for 7th. And New Orleans is now tied with the Lakers for 9th. They're a game ahead of everyone else. So the play-in game right now would be a healthy LeBron and a healthy Zion. Do you think we'll get either one for a play-in game?
That is a great question.
Boston beat Portland by 22, and the Clippers edged Toronto by 8. Ja Morant, by the way, will not face any charges for that Instagram live video and the gun, which, if you think about it, could easily be a legal gun and allowed to have it and the whole deal. But the Grizzlies announced he's going to be out at least 4 more games.
Now, what they were investigating furthermore, was it the fact were they trying to figure out if he brought the gun onto the team plane? I think that was a topic.
Well, that's a league matter. Okay. I think the authorities were trying to figure out, was it an illegal firearm?
Right.
All right. So he's not facing any charges. What the league does is a different matter. I think the Grizzlies are trying to hold him out so long that the league goes, we're not going to suspend you any further. Because I think the thought is that the league was going to go 3 to 5 games no matter what. So now the Grizzlies are basically saying, we're going to hold him out 6 minimum. Memphis now tied for the 2 seed in the West. 3 NHL games. Detroit at Chicago 4-3. Minnesota over Winnipeg 4-2. Vancouver in overtime over Anaheim. Lightning in action at home tonight against Vegas. I do want to mention women's college basketball. FIU, FAU both had their seasons end yesterday. FGCU will play for what is technically the 11th straight, because the conference tournament got canceled in 2020. But this is their 12th. They've been eligible to play in the A-Sun 12 years. This is the 12th time they've made it to the A-Sun title game on the women's side. And they will host Liberty in the championship game, which is the last team they lost to. What is interesting is FGCU is 31-3. And the number one bracketologist in women's basketball is basically saying if they lose the conference final, they will not get an at-large bid.
No.
Because they're slotted in as an 11, which is the very end, and that's with them being an automatic qualifier. If you remember last year's FGCU team, nationally ranked with a WNBA player on their roster, had a long winning streak, got seeded as a 12. And FGCU asked the committee afterwards, so are you saying if we had lost the conference final that we would not have gotten a bid? And the committee basically said yes. Well, that was last year's team. This year's team pretty much in the same boat. Some golf news. The Players gets underway today. World Golf Hall of Fame last night announced who is getting into the World Golf Hall of Fame. Padraig Harrington, 3 major championships. You would think that. The 13 LPGA founders are all getting in as a group. 6 of them were already in individually, but that's a nice gesture. Sandra Palmer is in. Beverly Hansen gets in. Johnny Farrell gets in. If you look at their resumes, they're all worthy. Tom Weiskopf got in over both Dottie Pepper and Jim Furyk. And we could have a very healthy debate as to whether or not Tom Weiskopf's career was better than both Dottie Pepper's and Jim Furyk's. Because I would argue no. Weiskopf's talent was considered better. His potential was considered better. Okay? And this is a not nice thing to say, but I think Tom Weiskopf got in because he died within the last year, quite frankly. I really do. So, and certainly, if you look at it, Furyk and Pepper will get in soon if they put Tom Weiskopf 16 wins on the PGA Tour, 1 major. Now, Freddie Couples, I think, had 15 wins, 1 major. I mean, there are others in with similar resumes. Okay, but Dottie Pepper had 2 majors, had more LPGA wins, and her career was cut short with a back injury. Furyk's got the 1 major. He's got more PGA Tour wins, and he's shot a 59 and a 58.
Yes. He has one of the best rounds in PGA.
No, he has the best round in the history of the PGA Tour.
Yes.
So, and he did not get in for what that is worth. And then there's a Tiger Woods story out there, which don't normally get into, person's relationships and what have you, but apparently he and his longtime girlfriend, Erica Herman, they were together over 6 years. So apparently they broke up in the last 2-3 months. And she claims that early on in their relationship, she had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. She wants that invalidated because she apparently wants to talk and allege certain things. And so there's a lot of TMZ stuff out there about Tiger again. Tiger's not playing this week. We'll see Tiger at the Masters. And that was the starting five. Miller and Moulton. I'm not a TMZ guy, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to. I could do, we could do 2 hours on the Tiger and his former girlfriend and the whole deal.
There's always drama with Tiger.
That's not how I roll. Would have had a much more successful career if I did roll that way, but that's how I roll. Miller and Moulton.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
You had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Didn't wear shorts in Binghamton, even during the summer, but oftentimes wore just jeans and never wore a suit. I mean, wore white shirts, a handful of sport coats, and a handful of ties, and just rotated them. The reason that I dressed the way that I did actually was not people that I worked with early in my career. Everybody I worked with early in my career, they all wore suits on television. I mean, you know, the suit pants, the dress shoes, the whole deal. And I started that way. And then I heard that Dan Rather wore jeans. And also somebody then told me that don't tuck in your shirt. That the best thing to do to have your shirt, because you were trying to avoid, you know how like right there, my shirt kind of bubbled up if you're watching on Twitch. And you in television, you're always trying to avoid that. So you want to sit on the back of your shirt, just like you want to sit on the back of your sport coat so that your shoulder line is flat. And so they would say to you, if you really want to look the best, don't tuck in your shirt, sit on the back of it.
So kind of tuck it in the front.
No, don't tuck it in at
just
all.
Untuck the whole
just
thing.
have it untucked.
That makes sense, though.
Okay, put your sport coat on, and the first thing and sit on the back of both.
That makes sense.
And then your shirt is flat on your chest, and your suit is flat on your shoulder line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the rule of thumb is simply, I mean, honestly, dark colored sport coats, blue, black, gray, and white shirts. You know, if you want to occasionally wear a blue shirt, but white shirts, red and blue and green ties.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And in Fort Myers, I wore shorts, obviously. And I literally had 2 sport coats. That's it. Blue and black. And literally rotated them every day. Was on TV for over 4 years. No one ever called me out on it. No one noticed that that's all I did. I had 2 white shirts, 5 ties, 2 sport coats. I would bring them in the beginning of the week and hang them up in the office. That was it. At the end of the show on Friday, I'd grab my clothes and go home and wash them.
It's hard to go crazy on the ties too. Like we were eating with John Vitas before the game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And he was wearing a blue suit, blue pants, and he goes, "Should I wear this purple tie or this blue tie?" We're like, no, blue tie, please. Purple tie is a little too much.
Although I got to tell you, was the Northwestern State coach last night in the Southland final. Yeah, he had a purple suit on. And I got to admit, he looks sharp.
Yeah.
You have to
be able to pull it off.
Yes. And
yes.
Very few people can.
That's the thing.
But he looked a good-looking, young African-American guy. He looked spectacular in it.
You got to be bold.
And they had a 16-point lead mid-first half too. And I'm like, he's going to wear this in the first in the play-in game in Dayton. He's going to wear this.
Well, what is it? South Carolina's head women's basketball coach. She has
Dawn Staley.
She has a deal with Louis Vuitton.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, we're coming back.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Hour number 2 of Miller and Moulton on this Thursday. Mark off till Monday. Think good thoughts. Wish him well. He's got the member, I think it's the member guest today and tomorrow.
Guest? Could he bring me?
He could bring anybody. 5 years ago, he wanted me to be the guest. And I just said, yeah, that ain't happening. And he took it very personally. And I said, this is not a you thing. Okay. I mean, trust me, I have to now do the show without you for 2 days. It's harder without you. I would love to drink beer and play golf for 2 days. I'm not worthy of being your guest from a golfing standpoint.
I don't know if I would ever want to play golf with Mark.
Why?
Because I'm so bad.
Well, then no, absolutely not.
I'm lefty also.
Well, that's fine.
So no, like
that's fine. If you just need to get to a certain point, that's all.
Yeah, I'd lose too many balls.
Mark can shoot anywhere from 78 to 92, though.
See,
so,
I'm more 98.
Yeah, so you got to improve, to be considered. And hopefully we do the show long enough for you to be considered. That's
True.
The key.
You also have to play. I don't play. That's the thing.
Exactly. So Mark will be today and tomorrow enjoying some golf. Hopefully he plays well, has fun. He'll be back on Monday. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Miss any part of the show, download our podcast. Letting everyone know now, Mark Dominik will be at the top of our bonus hour. And we know that those of you in Lake City and Tampa, St. Pete and Port Charlotte and Venice, that you don't get the bonus hour. So you probably at around 10 o'clock or so, if, there is a, there is an app for you to listen to the bonus hour live. But if you don't do that, you'll probably want to download our Mark Dominik interview 2 hours from now at floridasportsnetwork.com. Speaking of the NFL, not a lot of news yesterday. I mean, the biggest cut, at least in terms of money saved, was Robbie Anderson, Arizona, who traded for him in October of last year. They remember when Carolina was unloading, McCaffrey and then Robbie Anderson, and then eventually they cut Baker Mayfield, and Arizona saved $12 million by letting go of Robbie Anderson. The word is, by the way, DeAndre Hopkins is available.
I mean,
well, I think
better somewhere else than Arizona.
What? Okay, how much of that's on D-Hop and how much of that's on Kyler Murray? But also, let me ask you this, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think D-Hop's going to be 31 this year. Right. And the last year and a half between a suspension and an injury, he has not been on the field all the time. So let me ask you this. He is a number one. But he's now a 31-year-old number one. Mike Evans is to be a 30-year-old number one. All right. Who is going to give Arizona, because Arizona is going to want a first-round pick. I don't know if you can get a first-round pick for a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver, unless it's a team that thinks they're close. Like, I'm just going to throw this out there. You're the Ravens? You're the Ravens. First off, would it help you with your negotiations with Lamar?
Perhaps.
Because you traded away John Brown, ironically, to Arizona. All right. And you look at your wide receiving core, and it's in the same area code as the Giants wide receiving core. I mean, it's not that good. And you're trying to win in the AFC, which may also add Aaron Rodgers to the fold here with the Jets. More on that in a bit. But if you're Baltimore, with who it is you're trying to compete with,
I think that does help.
Now, I don't know if I would give up the 22nd pick of the draft. And because of his cap hit, if I'm Baltimore, I'd say to Arizona, how about I give you a 2 and a 5? And I'll take the cap hit off your hands. How about that? And you new GM and you new head coach, and you not going to have Kyler Murray probably for the first half of the year, maybe longer. How about if you guys just begin the retool?
What did Philly give up to get A.J. Brown?
A number one pick. But that was a 25-year-old number one wide receiver who they did have to sign to a contract also. Now, in D-Hop's case, he's got the contract. You just have to bring him on board. I'm just throwing that out there. If you're Baltimore,
A,
do you think that would help you with Lamar? But also B, if you're trying to legitimately compete with what you're trying to compete with, don't you think you've got the tight end, you've got the offensive line, you've got the defense. You could probably use another running back because you've had a host of injuries there. You have to assume your quarterback's going to play and stay healthy. All teams assume that.
Well, also, you have to assume that he's on board for next year.
Well, no, you don't have to. I mean, you have to assume that Lamar is going to play for you in 2023. All right. We're doing this 1 year at a time. I mean, because we've already, as Pat Kerwin likes to say, and he'll be on the show tomorrow, I mean, Baltimore and Lamar may have started divorce proceedings here. Now, it may be a 2-month divorce. It may be a 1-year divorce. It may be a 2-year divorce. But do you think right now that the Ravens and Lamar are working towards a long-term deal? Or do you think that the Ravens and Lamar are actually beginning divorce proceedings? Answer that on the side. But for right now, you've got Lamar and you have no wide receivers. And you're in the AFC. And we all know who you have to go through here. I mean, is a DeAndre Hopkins on the Ravens, who thoroughly outplayed the Bengals, by the way, in that playoff game. Thoroughly outplayed them. And that was with Huntley at quarterback. Completely outplayed them. Over 100 more yards in that game than the Bengals had in Cincinnati. And we saw how close the Bengals came to going to the Super Bowl. I mean, we're not thinking about Baltimore the way we were a few years ago. But if a healthy Lamar and a wide receiver on the Ravens, and that's a totally different team you got to go through in the AFC. That's a team that could beat anybody, to be honest.
It's just you're talking about one of the best wide receivers in the last decade.
Yes. But he's 31, and Arizona's in a total rebuild, and he's costly.
But some of the greatest were still good at 31.
But if you're Arizona, see, the thing is, if you're Arizona, it's not him at 31 in 2023. You're not going to be good this year.
Right.
I don't even know if you can be good in 2024. By the time you're going to be good, he's 33. See, if you're Arizona, it's kind of like, what's the point of having him now? Honestly. Hell, Kyler may not even play much this year.
It's kind of the same thing with Derrick Henry. He's 29.
Right.
The Titans will be okay, but nothing special. His value is at an all-time high right now.
Well, it's at the highest it's going to be.
Exactly.
It's only going to go down.
Correct.
And so that's why, in theory, the Titans are thinking, listen, if we keep him, we're probably stuck with him for the rest of the career and the contract we gave him, or we can get out from under the contract now and move in the direction that we're going to move.
Both of them should be shipped.
Well, it's why I brought up, and I don't think anybody agrees with me, but it's why I brought up, if you're Tampa Bay, I mean, now's the time to think about Mike Evans. I mean, this is the offseason in which you're deciding, is Mike Evans a Buccaneer for life? Does he go to the Hall of Fame having only played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Or if we're going to trade him, 9 years in the league, 9 1,000-yard seasons. Do you know how many wide receivers have done that?
One.
Zero. Zero at the start of a career.
Oh, right.
Zero.
That's insane.
And he turns 30 for this season. I mean, I'll tell you right now, if I'm the Ravens, D-Hop or Mike Evans. Oh, I'd take Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Mike Evans plays every game.
Yes.
Mike Evans hasn't been suspended for cheating.
Mike Evans scores
Right.
touchdowns.
Yeah.
A lot of touchdowns.
So now, do I think DeAndre's best day is a little better than Mike Evans' best day? I do. I think he's a little more dynamic. But I'm pretty confident Mike Evans is going to play 17 games.
Right.
And I'm not very confident D-Hop's going to play more than 12. So, but this is where, if you're Tampa Bay and you're $55 million over the cap, and the 3 cuts that you've announced that you're going to do are only saving you $20 million, I know what I'm trading away. I'm trading away a number 1 wide receiver. How beneficial is a number 1 wide receiver if Kyle Trask is your quarterback? Now, you can argue it both ways. I mean, you need Mike Evans more with a Kyle Trask at quarterback. I can agree with you on that argument. Or you could go, listen, can we just admit we're not going to be very good this year? And really the goal, every move that we make over the next 3 months should be about 2024.
But
Every single move we make.
in that case, do you just ship Godwin as well?
No, I got to have somebody.
True. Right.
No,
Without
no, I
Evans and
gotta have
Godwin,
somebody.
they have no
No,
one.
I got to have somebody.
Yeah.
But with what, think about it. Diggs got a first-round pick. A.J. Brown got a first-round pick. Now, they were both in their mid-20s. So I don't know if a D-Hop, if a Mike Evans can get you a first-round pick. But remember, look at the teams who are drafting in the 20s and low 30s. That's who's going to make a move like this. Think about it. Who acquired Diggs? The Bills. They thought they were right there. Who acquired A.J. Brown? The Eagles. They thought they were right there. Look at who's drafting in the 20s and who you think, man, they're good. But what if they got their quarterback a number 1?
Okay, but if you're like the Cowboys, do you send a first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins?
No. First off, in theory, I've got a number 1 wide receiver. I've got a few other issues.
It's fair.
But I keep going back to Baltimore and the 22nd pick of the draft. Mike Evans or D-Hop on the Ravens. And does that help you with Lamar? You're in the AFC, man. You need weapons. Miller and Moulton. David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I'm a little sick today, dudes. Ugh. Couldn't even sleep last night. I really like the sound of D-Hop or Mike Evans on the Ravens, and I think it would significantly help Lamar.
By the way, has anybody noticed Felipe keeps changing the camera position? All right. I like it. He's given you like 3-4 different camera angles. He's like his own producer director here. He keeps moving the camera angle. Remember, it was center of the studio, wide. Then it was center of the studio, tighter. Now it's angled. Now it's below him, looking up at him. All right. Felipe, he's a young future,
Stand by
radio
3.
TV guy.
Roll 3. Stand by 5. Roll 5. Stand by blue.
It's all
Run
these,
it.
It's all these television productions you're now a part of.
It's fun. I really like doing it because I'm a cameraman.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
So do you prefer that to anything else?
I think because I'm really good at it. Especially
Okay.
I think like I'm what I'd love to do is travel. Like travel for games. I've emailed. I'm trying to work March 19th for NESN for one of the Red Sox spring training games. I keep on emailing this.
I'd be shocked if they hired you.
Yeah. But you know Jim Goyne from
I know Jim.
Yeah.
Worked with him for 10 years.
Yeah. Amy Johnson, you ever heard that name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've emailed her a couple times. She hasn't responded. But I don't know. It's fun. I like it. And again, not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good at it. I know what to shoot, and I can operate a camera very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, it's Nesson.
NESN. NESN.
Well,
New England Sports Network.
You need to have the lingo down. That's all. I don't want you talking to somebody important saying NESN. Okay.
It does stand for.
They would immediately discount hiring you. So.
It stands for New England Sports Network, right?
I understand, but it's Nesson. That's how it's referred. Everybody calls it Nesson.
We're calling it ESPN now.
Low angles are never the best, Bob and Jake, ever. John's working on 2 shows, actually. John's doing social media and producing of 2 different radio shows. One's a midday show, both national, by the way. So John's very busy. And he's married with two young sons, 4 and 2, I believe. And he turns 40 next month. 40.
Wait, who?
Our longtime producer.
Oh. Coming back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
$21 past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark off. He'll be back on Monday. Young Felipe holding down the fort. I made the drive, 350 miles from Northeast Florida and Jacksonville back to Southwest Florida, my longtime home, in studio with Felipe today and tomorrow. You did say something late last segment, and if you're just joining us, we were kicking around if you're the Ravens, do you trade your first-round pick for a Mike Evans or a DeAndre Hopkins? Talking about the whole Lamar situation and what have you. And Felipe, I said, concentrate on the teams that are drafting in the low to mid-20s, who feel as if they need one more weapon to get them over the hump. And you said, if you're the Cowboys, do you trade your first-round pick for either one of those number 1 wide receivers? And I said, no. During the break, I thought about it. Now, obviously, do I want to give up my first-round pick, which is, I don't know, right around 26, I think, 27? No, I don't. I would prefer to maybe give up a 2 this year and something else next year. But What were the Cowboys lacking down the stretch? Weapons.
Depth.
When Pollard got hurt in the playoff game, they had CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz, and that's it. And Dalton Schultz is a free agent. Okay, right now you have an injured Tony Pollard and you have CeeDee Lamb. And because what did they do? They traded away Amari Cooper for a song, by the way. What, a 5th-round pick?
Yeah.
Yeah. A legitimate number 1 wide receiver. Now, he didn't have a number 1 quarterback this year, but that's still a legitimate number 1 wide receiver. But what were the Cowboys lacking against the really good teams at the end of the day last year? They needed one more weapon. Zeke's no longer that weapon. Pollard got hurt, and all of a sudden they were out there against the Niners, and they had CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz, and the Niners said, yeah, we'll take it from here. Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much.
And there's a team in which what are they trying to do? They're trying to get over the hump with Dak.
If you give Dak either one of those guys.
Well, and I would, if I was Dallas and I had to choose, I would choose Evans.
Yeah.
He's younger, went to college at A&M. All right. And he's more consistent. Also, I think his skill set with CeeDee would be the perfect match. Okay. Imagine CeeDee Lamb as your number 2. All right. That should be a really good offense. It also would allow you to move on from Dalton Schultz and go and just get a solid tight end. I mean, quite frankly, they could sign a Cameron Brate for $4 million, save $7 million at the position. Okay. If you had Mike Evans with CeeDee Lamb, because their wide receiving core, they've missed on a lot. A lot of the guys they thought the Michael Gallups and what have you 2-3 years ago, not developed, gotten hurt, whatever. So that's actually the more I think about it, that's a team in which, are they in the position the Bills were in when they went and got Diggs? Are they closer to the position the Eagles were in a year ago when they said, what do we need to do for Jalen Hurts? Even though we have a Devontae Smith, what do we need to do? We need to get him a number 1.
Cowboys have the 26th pick. If I'm telling you, if we put a poll question up, if you're the Cowboys, would you trade the 26th pick for Mike Evans? I think everyone would say yes. I would.
So, I mean, if I'm urging Baltimore at 22 to make that deal, all right, and let's face it, I mean, Dallas, Jarrah all but said last week, I mean, this is a put up or shut up year for Dak. I mean, Jarrah's going to move on from Dak if he doesn't show this year that he's a quarterback capable of winning a Super Bowl. And we all know you can show you're a quarterback capable of winning the Super Bowl and not win the Super Bowl. I mean, the Eagles now believe Jalen Hurts can win a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's yet to win a Super Bowl. The Bengals are like, we have a quarterback capable of winning Super Bowl. The Chargers believe they have a quarterback capable of winning the Super Bowl, even though he's yet to win a playoff game. Right now, Jarrah's all but said, I've paid him like a guy capable of winning the Super Bowl. Deep down, I think he's a guy capable of winning the Super Bowl, but it's pretty much time to prove it. We fired his offensive coordinator, and McCarthy's calling the plays because, Dak needs help. No better way to give him help than to go get him a number 1 wide receiver.
Let me ask you something. Do we have that same late first round swap energy with Derrick Henry?
No.
No?
No. First off, who's the Derrick Henry away from going to the Super Bowl? All right. That's the very first thing you have to pencil in.
The Jags?
Doug Peterson won't run the ball enough.
Yeah.
And also, they spent a first-round pick on ATN. He's entering his 3rd year. I mean, ATN had 20 carries for 110 yards against the Chargers. All right? They don't need to do better than that.
Now, I know they just traded, because they traded 2 second-rounders for Naheem Hines. What about the Bills?
It's interesting. They've been mentioned. Here's the thing. I don't believe you have to give up that much because you're taking on that contract. I actually don't think you'd have to give up a first-round pick to take Henry off the Titans' hands. I actually think you could go with 2 and something else.
But the thought is he gets sent to a contender.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in theory, listen, the Dolphins have been mentioned for Derrick Henry because the thought being that just about all their running backs are free agents. Now, I have no idea how you work that contract into what you're doing. I think you'd have to restructure it. Okay. But, I mean, that's a guy who's going to throw the ball 65% of the time. But if every single time he ran the ball, he ran it with Derrick Henry, if your 22 carries a game were Derrick Henry, I mean,
Yeah.
Buffalo and the Dolphins have both been mentioned. Now, I don't have faith that either coach is actually going to give him the ball enough, but
I mean, that's a fair point. He probably wouldn't get the ball enough in Miami. But so he's not worth the first rounder.
well, and I don't think you'd have to give it up.
Right. You
I
could
don't.
get
Running back in his late 20s, I don't think you'd have to give it up with a big contract. But the question is that a guy, like right now, I think Miami's trying to hold their defense together from a cap standpoint. They've got their offense, although they'd like to upgrade the line, but they're trying to hold their defense together from a cap standpoint. And that's where the Henry acquisition, in theory, would be problematic. It's a big number. How do we restructure this to work this into the equation? Now, going to a state with no taxes, the weather, grass field, contender.
I hate to sound like this, but for real, why doesn't every athlete play in Miami?
Well, it's been a question that's been raised for a long time.
I mean, it's the best baseball as well. Why not play Miami?
Well, they don't pay, even though they are spending $103 million on their payroll this year. But in the grand scheme of things, they don't pay, and they don't win, and people don't go to their games. But besides that, it's a hell of an attractive place. But the thought's been that way in the NBA that Orlando was going to be, the place. And for a while it was for free agents and what have you. Actually, Orlando back in the mid-90s was considered the sexier landing stop than Miami. Go figure that.
Not anymore.
No, I said mid-90s.
Right. Yeah.
Things
times
have
changed.
Felipe and the Clutch Vodka play of the day coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. Dalton Miller, Pro Football Network, will join us next. Mark Packer at the top of the hour. Mark Dominik at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka play of the day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN play of the day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the play of the day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka play of the day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka play of the day.
That's Clutch with a K.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6, and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
By the way, FGCU baseball with a sweep at Troy. Troy was 11-0 before FGCU showed up.
They're ranked.
And FGCU beat them 10-5 and 13-5. They're 12-2. They just went 4-1 on a Florida State Troy road trip. They're scoring 10-plus runs a game. Think anybody will actually show up and watch them play? Think anybody's aware of this?
Hardly.
Think anybody at FGCU would market this? Unbelievable.
It also again, it's the same thing with the ASUN tournament. It does not help that the final is literally the last Saturday of spring break. No one will be at that game.
Yeah, well, but
Students.
that's just a bad break.
I know.
I mean,
It's
the
unfortunate.
ASUN schedule is what the ASUN schedule is, and
Right.
spring break has always been what it is.
Mm-hmm. It sucks though, you know. But hey,
Well, listen, just imagine if the men had hosted the final. That was last weekend on a Saturday night. That was the beginning of spring break, right?
yes.
So the same thing has happened in the past. Either the men are hosting the final, because in 2018 they hosted the final. It's the last time they did. And that's at the beginning of spring break. So some students are in town, but others have left. And then when the women host, they host the following week, and kids are coming back that day or the next day from spring break.
Who did they lose to?
They lost to Lipscomb.
Yeah. I went to their their last home game against Lipscomb, which was another big game. I remember that it was kind of packed. Or maybe it was
Well, the ASUN final that year, they were down 31 at one point, and they cut it all the way to 4, but lost.
how you go down 31 at home in a conference championship game. Blows my mind.
Yeah,
But
trust me.
mhm.
With Brandon Goodwin and Zach Johnson in the
Mhm.
backcourt.
Oh man, I remember Zach. But no, that game that was senior night of that year, February 17th, 2018. That was my first FGCU game that I went to. And it was
Beast mode.
it was a good game, but they lost. I was disappointed. That's all they've ever done to me in the last 5 years.
Hey, remember, we have guests here.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour, top of the morning to you. Thursday edition of Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Mark will be back on Monday. Felipe holding down the fort. And you can see young Felipe if you're taking us in on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel. I don't know. I think he reined the hair in a big way. I think he had a lot more flow going on over the last week. But I think he washed it and combed it, and that hasn't always been the case. Mark Packer from the ACC Network will join us coming up at the top of the hour. Mark Dominik will join us at the top of the bonus hour. Dalton Miller, kind enough to join us once again. Lead NFL analyst for Pro Football Network, profootballnetwork.com. You can follow Dalton on Twitter, Dalton the letter B Miller, Dalton B Miller. Dalton, it's David. How are you?
David, I am fantastic. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Well, we are fine. Listen, we were just talking about a couple of guys who are they a difference maker if a teams were to go and acquire them. Rumor has it Tennessee is shopping Derrick Henry. Rumor has it Arizona is shopping DeAndre Hopkins. I am of the belief that Tampa Bay should be shopping Mike Evans. You know, we're thinking along the lines of when Buffalo acquired Diggs and the Eagles acquired A.J. Brown. Do you think there are teams out there who are a Derrick Henry away from now being a Super Bowl contender, a D-Hop or Mike Evans away from being a Super Bowl contender, and should think seriously about unloading their draft pick in the mid-20s to acquire one of these guys?
You know, it's funny you say that because I can think of one just right off the top of my head when it comes to Mike Evans, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys. I think that the one thing they were truly missing from their offense is a legitimate speed threat, and not just a speed threat, but somebody who really threatens down the field. And Mike Evans obviously has been one of, if not the most consistent NFL wide receiver over the past decade. A fantastic player overall, but is a real true weapon down the field, which is something that Dallas really lacked last year. And there's been talks, you know, that they are also looking at the DeAndre Hopkins trade market, but it's just not as good of a fit for the Cowboys. Hopkins would be. And when it comes to Derrick Henry, I don't really see him being a massive difference maker for any teams at this point. Now, he can obviously be a bell cow back and, you know, take 300 carries for you and get you 4 yards a pop. But I just don't think that he has the legs that he used to. And that just comes down to taking so many hits over the course of a career. I think when it comes down to somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, you know, if he would go and be a number two, the Buffalo Bills, that would be disgusting with him and Diggs, like you said, when you were talking about the Diggs trade earlier. But it's tough to see, you know, just off of the top of my head where some of these guys are fitting. And when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins, you also have to look at his recent rash of injuries and inability to stay on the field. And is that going to continue in the future?
Of the three, okay, your best guesstimate here, play GM. Do any of the three require a first-round pick, or can they be had for less?
I think if you're looking, and it depends on what the team is, I think teams at the top of the second round who have, you know, somebody else's pick, teams that are contending but were able to move assets and get a high pick in the second round, I think that would kind of be the perfect fit.
You mean like Pittsburgh? You mean like Pittsburgh at 32?
Pittsburgh at 32 would be one, but I don't think that they're competing right now, and I think that's the problem. I think if you want to get somebody like Mike Evans, it's in the next 2 years you have to be thinking of a championship, and I don't think that the Steelers are there. And
Gotcha.
I do agree with you that Tampa Bay should be looking to shop him, and I do think a team that is desperate for that type of player, you know, look at, you know, maybe even the Los Angeles Chargers, who obviously they have Mike Williams, who is a bit of a downfield threat, but he's not very fast. They also have Keenan Allen, who they just restructured as well. But they need somebody with that speed, and you know, Mike Evans is somebody that still has that.
All right, and I'll move on to another topic, I promise. I think Baltimore should go and get Mike Evans. It would require probably the 22nd pick of the draft. But to me, that this would be their Diggs deal. And this is also their way of saying to Lamar, whether we're beginning divorce proceedings or not, okay, I am giving you a number one wide receiver. It took a year, but I've upgraded from John Hollywood Brown to Mike Evans. You've got a top 5 tight end. You have a top 8 offensive line. And if we could ever keep our running backs healthy, we're fine there too. And we have a top 8 defense. Okay. We'll figure this contract out or we'll ship you somewhere eventually. What do you say?
I don't mind that move at all. My issue with the Ravens has always been their ability to keep people healthy, whether it be the running backs, the offensive line. Ronnie Stanley hasn't been healthy, in years now. Lamar is unable to stay healthy. You're right. They've needed a number one guy for a long time, and Hollywood Brown was able to kind of accumulate targets and be a weapon for them, but he's not a true number one. And so bringing in a guy like Mike Evans, having somebody like Rashad Bateman come back and be healthy, I think would be huge for that team in a year where they're probably at the end of it with Lamar Jackson. And yeah, they could go and they could sign him 3 years in a row and it would cost them about $125 million overall. That's kind of a deal. And it's 1 year injury guaranteed every single year for them. So they kind of control him, but they can help him out throughout that process, even if they can't get a long-term deal done. The more I think about it, I really like that idea, and I might have to write about that.
He's Dalton Miller, lead NFL analyst, Pro Football Network, ProFootballNetwork.com. Follow him on Twitter, Dalton, the letter B, Miller, Dalton B. Miller. All right. So who got it right in signing their quarterbacks and or others and avoiding having to place the tag? With the Giants with Daniel Jones, the Seahawks with Geno Smith. All right. Who is it that you look at and you go, you know what, they did a good job? And who is it that you looked at and went, I don't know, not your best work?
Geno's deal is incredible. I don't see Pete Carroll paying him and then also drafting a quarterback in the top 5, but the contract is completely front loaded. So they have the ability to move on pretty cleanly from Geno Smith next year if they would want to. I think Geno also got fairly compensated for, what he's brought. I think that he could have even probably made a little bit more on the open market, but I think he wanted to kind of give thanks to the Seattle Seahawks and do a little bit of a team friendly deal. I know the Giants got a lot of grief for Daniel Jones' contract, but $40 million a year is going to be outside of the top 10 in quarterback contracts very, very quickly. And when you look at the entire, pantheon of the quarterback ecosystem, he's probably in that 15, range anyways. And you don't pay on what you've gotten from a quarterback. You pay on what you think you're going to get. Another year with Dable, another year with Mike Kafka. They're assuming he's going to continue to get better as a passer, more consistent as a passer. And so I don't hate that deal as much as so many other people did. Is it a lot for what we've seen from him so far? Sure. But I think when you look forward, it is not that bad of a deal. And then obviously all of the teams tagging all of the running backs is the correct decision because you do not pay running backs huge money.
All right. Best info that you have concerning Aaron Rodgers is the holdup. I don't know if he wants to play for the Jets. And what do you think the compensation is ultimately going to be? I mean, the Jets are desperate, but Green Bay clearly also is desperate to unload him. I mean, I guess Green Bay has a little more leverage, but I don't know how much.
It's an incredibly difficult situation because of his contract. I know it's been written. I believe Albert Breer wrote that there might not be a first-round pick involved in it at all. And honestly, I could see it because his contract is kind of a nightmare. And you also have to look at it from the standpoint of there is no trade market for Aaron Rodgers. It's just the Jets at this point. And so they really only have to bid against themselves. So I don't think it's going to take a ton to get this done. And Diana Rossini just tweeted out a little bit ago that it looks optimistic, or the Jets are optimistic it's going to get done. I think it would be a second round pick for this year, and then some sort of rolling pick in the future, depending on playing time, how well he plays, and things of that nature. Something that could be a third round pick in the future that could rise up and be a second round pick. But I don't think it'll be that much. He's going to be 40 years old. He's a ton of money, and there is no bidding war for him. So I don't think it'll be much, and I do think that it gets done because I think the Packers want to see what they have in Jordan Love before it's all said and done.
We go back 3 years, and there were no more than 3 teams and maybe only 2 that were serious about acquiring free agent Tom Brady. And obviously we can go back and go, boy, a lot of teams made a mistake. Is there a team or 2 out there right now that's making a huge mistake that they're not trying to get Aaron Rodgers? I mean, I believe he plays this year for most of the year at 39. At 37 and 38, he won 2 MVPs, if you know what I mean. I mean, are we sure somebody's not making a Tom Brady-like mistake here?
I think when you look at the NFL, you have these teams that are going to try to just turn it over with a rookie. I don't really see anybody outside of the Jets who are a legitimately, really talented roster, like the Jets are. Somebody who can compete in that division. And if you're competing in the AFC East, you're competing in the AFC. I think with Aaron Rodgers, they're one of the best teams in the NFL if that defense is able to repeat what it did last season. And so I really kind of just think it is the Jets. I don't think Carolina was set up for it. I don't see really any other teams that are just a quarterback away from being Super Bowl contenders. So I think the Jets are making the right decision here. It's ironic that Aaron Rodgers is going to follow in the footsteps of Brett Favre here.
It's unbelievable.
And now the Packers have to hope that Love can be the next Aaron Rodgers and the next Brett Favre.
Well, it's unbelievable. I think it's the exact same number of years in Green Bay. Then they both end up going to the Jets. And you mentioned maybe not requiring a first-round pick. We went through it yesterday. Favre ended up being traded for a third-round pick. Now, it was conditional, and if the Jets had made the playoffs, it would have been a first. But ultimately, the Jets got Favre for a third-round pick, and we wonder what they're ultimately going to end up paying to get Aaron Rodgers. All right, Dalton, we got a handful of minutes left, even less. All right, what do you think, biggest thing or 2 you think is going to happen between now and the 15th when the new year begins?
Ooh, dang, that's a great question. I don't really have any huge proclamations at this point. I mean, the Aaron Rodgers thing would have been my guess, but it looks like that's pretty much ironed out at this point.
By the way, do you think that becomes a deal that doesn't happen till after June 1st for cap reasons, that it's done on March 9th or whatever it is, but it cannot go through till early June?
Yes, for cap purposes, I think that's the way that this has to go. Admittedly, I am not a salary cap and NFL contract expert because they make it so it is very difficult to be an expert in that field. But I do think that they have to wait until June 1st. I think that there's some other kind of big cuts around the NFL that could happen, but they're all going to be, post June 1 designations. I think that there's a lot of really difficult decisions that some teams have to make. But there's nothing that really stands out to me about anybody getting a deal done outside of, it looks like the Giants really want to get a long-term deal done with Saquon. I don't know what that deal would look like, and I don't really know, why they would do that, considering he has been, banged up here and there, and he already has 1,300 career touches under his belt. But I think that might be a deal that gets done. Outside of that, I don't really have any big proclamations.
He's Dalton Miller, lead NFL analyst, Pro Football Network, profootballnetwork.com. Follow Dalton on Twitter, Dalton B. Miller, Dalton the letter B. Miller. Dalton, thanks for making time for us. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me again, gentlemen.
Dalton Miller, Pro Football Network, PFN 365, if you want to follow them on Twitter as well. Mark Packer, ACC Network, coming up at the top of the hour. Biggest news in sports yesterday, Jim Boeheim out. And it really does not appear to have been his decision. That the folks running the show at Syracuse just decided, you know what, Jimbo, it's time.
Kick the old man to the curb.
Yeah. It really does seem as if they pulled him aside at some point in the last 2 weeks and said, I know you want to stay, but it's time to go. And they picked his replacement. And that's the other thing. They did not give him 24, 48 hours to let everybody, just and then announce their replacement. They said, yep, yeah, he's done. We thank him for the 47 years. And by the way, Autry, the longtime assistant, he's the replacement. It's like, okay.
Hey, Autry, you're done.
We'll talk to Mark Packer about that. And what's he think of the Canes' chances?
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6, and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Also, is Joe Mixon going to play another game?
Well, I don't think it's going to be with the Bengals.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why, actually, I think Derrick Henry to the Bengals should be a consideration. Now, he doesn't necessarily catch the ball. I'll make your prediction. You know who I think the Bengals will take a flyer on? Because I think Joe Burrow will ask the GM to do it, because the Chiefs, I believe, are going to release Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I'll bet you Burrow says, put him in this offense.
LSU.
He goes, I know what he can do.
Yeah. Also, apparently Jamar Chase is in some media stormfire. Apparently his baby mama said that he has videos that would quote unquote end his career.
Well, that's not good.
No, not particularly.
Are we going over the air?
Damn it. Yeah, briefly. My bad. It's the one thing. The one thing.
No, fortunately, we didn't say anything inappropriate.
No.
That's pretty important, you know.
Yeah. We got 2 Marks on the show today, but no Mark.
Well done.
You want to call him? Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't answer. I left him a voicemail. We're coming back now.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Third and final hour of Miller and Moulton. If you're listening in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte to Venice, we're just halfway home in the 239. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark is off today and tomorrow. He will be back on Monday. Mark Dominik will join us at the top of the bonus hour, former general manager of the Bucks, and all talks NFL on SiriusXM's NFL Radio and other places. We'll ask him some questions, whether or not he would trade Mike Evans. He drafted him after all. Would he trade him going forward? Are the Bucks at that point where they would do that and move on? Mark Packer is kind enough to join us right now. He of ACC PM, weekdays 4 o'clock on the ACC network. You can follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Packer. Mark, it's David. Thanks for your time. How are you?
I am good. I hope life's treating everybody great down there in Florida. Crazy time. It's the madness has begun and then some, right?
Well, my goodness, can your tournament be any more newsworthy an hour and a half into it? My goodness, where do we start? By the way, your take on how Syracuse handled moving on from Jim Boeheim yesterday, because, well, it's not an easy thing to do, but the way they did it, I thought was interesting, to say the least.
It was cryptic, right? I mean, you know, you got Jim Boeheim, who is always an interesting person to talk to, whether it be after a game or in the middle of the summer. And his responses were cryptic, and everybody, I think, was trying to connect dots. And he talked about the retirement speech on Saturday, and only one person got it. And, you know, when pressed to say, hey, listen, are you stepping down? Hey, you're talking to the wrong guy. I mean, the whole thing just seemed a bit disjointed. And then obviously the weird thing about it was about 5 minutes after he got off the podium, here comes a statement that, hey, guess what? We're making a change at Syracuse, and down the road you go. It didn't seem like it was very well organized, but nevertheless, I think maybe the most important thing is to celebrate really what was really an amazing run by Jim Boeheim in Syracuse, because quite frankly, he is Syracuse basketball.
Well, and I mean, think about the last year in the ACC.
Yeah.
You know, Krzyzewski, 40 plus years at Duke, but that wasn't his alma mater. Boeheim, 47 years at his alma mater. Never mind the year before that, Roy Williams walks away from North Carolina. I mean, we're talking, what, 3 of the top 10 of all time?
Yeah, the ACC is definitely in a bit of transition. I mean, you lose unbelievable coaches. And we're not talking about like these are really good coaches that had a good run. Like you said, you're talking about legendary coaches in the sport. And even though I would always kind of associate Jim Boeheim really with his claim and fame and being in the Big East more so than the ACC, because quite frankly, the last 9 years of Syracuse and the ACC, they've been basically a 500 team. But it doesn't take away of his greatness and everything he accomplished. And you do something for 47 years at the level he did. I mean, you got to put him on a short list at some point in time with the national championship and, 35 NCAA tournament appearances and 20 Sweet 16s. And, the list goes on and on and on. But to lose Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, I would even say Rick Pitino when he left Louisville and what they've now been through coming off a year that they want to forget. Another all-time great coach who's still doing his thing, obviously, and Boeheim. I mean, this is a league that's in a transition when it comes to men's basketball, which has been a staple for this conference as long as I've been alive, which is a long, long time. So it's been kind of neat to have a front row seat to watch the league go through this change, but that's exactly what's taking place as we speak.
The television show is ACC PM. It's 4:00 weekdays on the ACC network. Mark Packer is a big part of it. Follow him on Twitter at Mark Packer. Well, you mentioned a couple of places. These are obviously anywhere from interesting to volatile times in college athletics. Can Georgetown be Georgetown again? Can Syracuse be Syracuse again? I think Louisville can be Louisville again. I think this is just a rut and a phase. Or Mark, do you worry that once you get out of the express lane in college sports, you could be on the side of the road for a long time?
Well, David, we're in a different time. I mean, the days and ages of, hey, I'm going to put together a team and my guys are going to be here for 4 years and we're going to develop them and all that stuff. That day is over and it's not coming back. I mean, so we're in a day and time of name, image, and likeness and money's at stake. And again, Boeheim's already talked about, hey, I'm not going to pay guys and et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's one of the reasons you've seen guys like Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Boeheim. I'd even throw in Jay Wright. As brilliant a coach as he is and was at Villanova, I think these guys realize that, hey, this is a new universe. And, what was cool maybe 15, 20 years ago may not be. I mean, we've kind of seen that in college football in some respects. I mean, I'm a Clemson alum, and I would even say in football, we've seen a change of the guards of what is old is old and what's new is new. So it's just a new universe. And so you need to have younger thought process in terms of recruiting and have a collective and understand how the NIL works and understand that kids in this day and age can get up in the middle of the night and say, guess what, David Moulton, I'm not playing for you. I'm out of here. So it's different. And so to just assume that, hey, just because you've got Kansas or North Carolina or Duke or Kentucky on your chest means you're automatically going to be one of those teams in the Final Four. Well, you've got built-in advantages because you're a blue blood. But, man, you've got to understand how the game's played now. So there's a lot of work to be done if you're at Syracuse. There's a lot of work to be done if you're at Louisville. There's a lot of work to be done if you're at Georgetown. I mean, schools like that. So can you get left behind? You certainly can. So it's imperative that whoever your new head coach is understands the new rules and new law that we're playing by, because it is a totally different universe in college athletics. I'm not saying it's better. It's just different and it's new, but you better deal with it.
All right. One quick question. I know this is not going to happen. This is fantasy land. But if you were the AD at Texas Tech or Louisville, would you just say, listen, I'm bringing Chris Beard and I'm bringing Rick Pitino back? I mean, stuff happens. We make mistakes. They make mistakes. But it's pretty inarguable that that's the best fit at both schools. I mean, I know it's not going to happen, but if I was running the show, Mark, I'm telling you right now, at either place, I'd make that move.
Well, it depends on what you stand for. Quite frankly, I mean, I think we've lost sight in all of this of what the college experience is supposed to be. I mean, I've said this for 100 years, and people laughed at me. The object is to get a degree. Now, if you happen to play and win championships along the line, hey, that's awesome. But if you're like, hey, if my coach is out there beating up women, let me go ahead and hire this guy, whoever it may be, man or woman. If that's what rocks your world, and you think that, hey, I don't care about the lay of the law, let's just go win championships and go knock yourself out. I mean, you can go do that if you want. But I think we need to get back to what this is supposed to be all about. I mean, there's so much money now at stake, David, that quite frankly, the sport almost disgusts me sometimes, because it's like we're going down a path that, hey, if you want to be the NBA, you want to be the National Football League and be a light version of that, maybe that's where we are already, and it's only going to get worse because the money is going to continue to grow, and we're going to see that with the extension of the college football playoff. There's going to be even more money, and the billions upon billions of dollars we're talking about for rights fees and leagues, and this league's disintegrating, and this coach can't do this, and we're not playing. I mean, we're going down an ugly path. And so, if the object is, hey, I want to win at all costs, I think there's a lot of guys you can go hire and turn it around overnight. But at some point in time, you got to stand for something. And, maybe dignity has left the door. Maybe it has. I think in a lot of places it hasn't. But if that is what your desire is, and that's what your boosters are saying, we don't care. Let's just go win a championship. We want to be in the college football playoff, or we want to be a factor in the Final Four every single year. And we don't care if our kids graduate. If they're here for 6 months and they're gone, they're off to the NBA. That's okay. As long as we're winning, we're great. Hey, you can do that if you want. I mean, that to me is the easy way out.
Let's get to the quarterfinals today. It's a very special day on Tobacco Road, if you will. The 4 North Carolina schools are all playing today, and none of them are playing each other. So the noon, the 2:30, the 7, and the 9:30 involve Wake Forest, Duke, North Carolina, and NC State. I do want to ask you about Miami. I think they're a sleeper Final Four team, veteran guards, and they can score. Yep. How do you handicap Miami?
I love them. And you know what? I love their team last year. And Jim Larinaga has done such a brilliant job. And while we sit here talking about all these legendary coaches that are retiring, here's Jim Larinaga in the tail end of his great career, having unbelievable success. And he looks like he's 25 years old out there having fun. And his kids play the game the right way. They don't have a true center. But, man, Omer's been fantastic inside. Even though he's undersized, their guards know how to play. Isaiah Wong wins the ACC Player of the Year. And if he doesn't go and light you up for 25, maybe Pack does. And if he doesn't, maybe Jordan Miller does. So they've got a lot of weapons. And I think they're going to be a tough out. Doesn't guarantee you anything. It's all about getting breaks and who loses in front of you and all that stuff. But I love the job Jim Larinaga has done. They've earned the right to be the number 1 seed. And they're going to be a tough out, whether it be Greensboro or the Final Four. So I'm with you on that as far as a quote-unquote dark horse, even though I don't know how you can call them a dark horse anymore, as sitting there in the top 15 of the AP poll and all that stuff. As far as what happened today in Greensboro, this is about as close as you can get to the old days of the ACC when Tobacco Road on Greensboro, and every one of these games involves somebody in the Big Fours, they call it up here, with Duke State, North Carolina, and Wake Forest. It'll be a fun day. And I think the one thing we learned about the ACC is that you can't take anything for granted when it comes to the upper half of the league. I mean, anybody can beat anybody on any given day. And really, quite frankly, the results of all 4 of these games, I'll let you pick first, and I'd be completely comfortable with the other guy. I mean, it's just one of those kind of things. It should make for a great day of basketball.
All right, have 30 seconds. The 2 games at night. How many games do you believe North Carolina has to win to get in? And do you believe Clemson with a win gets in?
Clemson, well, they're both in must wins, right? I think if they both lose tonight, I think both of them are in deep trouble and need a lot of help. North Carolina beating Virginia may be enough. I think Clemson may have to win 2. And as goofy as that sounds, as Clemson is a 3 seed and North Carolina is the 7 seed, I think both of them can ill afford a one and done today. If that's the case, I think they're going to have an awful Sunday. That's the way I look at it.
Mark Packer, ACC PM is the show. Weekdays, 4 o'clock, ACC Network. Follow him on Twitter at Mark Packer. Mark, I know I expressed this to you privately, but I'll say it publicly. Our condolences about your dad, and I hope you and your family are doing okay during these times.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you reaching out, and appreciate really everybody that did. It was an incredible time for our family, needless to say, but we know that Billy's in a better place.
Mark Packer, ACC Network, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
You ready, by the way?
For what, the pod? Yeah.
And
we're not over the air.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. So, let's say Aaron Rodgers ends up going
to the Jets.
To the Jets.
Right.
How much better of a receiving core is Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson than what he previously had? What, Tyler Conklin as his tight end? He's got Braxton Berrios. I'm just saying, how much is it an upgrade, really, from the Packers?
Well,
maybe a little bit.
No, I think it's similar. I actually think the offensive personnel would be very similar. Okay, because I like the young receiver that they got in the second round, the North Dakota State kid Watson. But I don't know that anybody else was really. The tight ends are similar. Maybe the guy with the Jets is a little better. Both offensive lines had issues. Green Bay's running back situation is deeper because they had two and the Jets only had one, and he got hurt. So the Jets defense is a lot better.
Yeah.
And the Jets have more cap room to be able to do things with. Now Rodgers will eat up
most of it. Yeah.
But they can make moves.
And again, maybe it's just because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I just really don't like that. Now, I've always wanted to see in recent years. I've wanted to see Rodgers anywhere but Green Bay, just because I'm sick of it. But I don't know. You see what Sauce Gardner said?
Yeah.
Twitch chat. He goes, Sauce Gardner, I think he tweeted it. He was like, Aaron Rodgers, if you come to the Jets, I won't intercept you in practice. Also, I'll burn the cheese head.
I don't understand. I'm now reading a story that says if Rodgers leaves, the Packers would get hit with a $40.3 million dead charge. I thought the dead charge was 59.
Now, what do you mean by that dead charge?
Because see, when you unload somebody from your roster, all future bonus money, all current and future bonus money gets applied to the cap immediately. So like he had a contract in which, he was under contract for next year, and then he had 2 dummy years in as well. But so this year and next year's all bonus money that gets applied onto this year's cap the moment they get rid of him. And I thought the number of the dead cap hit for him was 59.
But it's saying
Diana
it's
Rossini is reporting it's 40.
Oh, 40.
Which is still $9 million more than what he would cost if he plays for the Packers this year. It's actually going to cost them $9 million more to unload him, minimum, than to keep him.
So is it really that? Are we really that confident that he's just going to go to the Jets?
Well, the Jets are letting it be known that they are.
Damn. I will be older than Aaron Rodgers is wide receiver 1. God, that's weird.
Oh, the defense is definitely an upgrade. Yeah, but Johnny Mac, we're supposed to be on Twitch. We're coming back, right?
Yeah, in 10 seconds. Here we go.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark off today and tomorrow. Back on Monday. Young Felipe holding down the fort. He's beginning to fade. All right. He was full of energy, even a little nervousness. Okay. 3 hours ago, had a lot of energy in the 6 o'clock hour, the 7 o'clock hour. Now this is when he needs an empanada.
I've run out of fluids to drink because I'm not feeling so hot either.
Here we go.
Nope.
He hasn't mentioned it all morning. I know you mentioned it yesterday morning. Have mentioned it all morning. Anyway, Felipe, he's getting pale. He's getting tired. Don't know if he's going to make it to the finish line without dozing off. All right, it's going to be close.
You hear this is nasty. Ugh, gross.
That's no need to share.
Yeah.
No need to share. Felipe and the Clutch Vodka play of the day coming up in a handful of minutes. So the big story yesterday was Jim Boeheim being not so politely shoved to the curb, is what it really looks like by Syracuse. I mean, Boeheim wanted to keep coaching, and Syracuse moved on, and they hit send on the press release minutes after his post-game presser was over, saying, yeah, we've moved on. Autry's our new coach, and thanks for the 47 years. So, all righty then. I will give everybody involved credit for keeping it secret, though, which also shows you how the local media in Syracuse how much at a distance they are covering that team. Because that's something that this day and age should get out. That Jim Boeheim after 47 years. But then again, Roy Williams kept it quiet too. Roy Williams, I mean, word got out about 13 minutes before Roy Williams said, you know what? I'm done.
I call it the Miami Heat model of handling media personnel, where it is so hard for anything to get out of that circle. It's impossible.
Right. And if it gets out, it's because the Heat wanted it to.
Kyle Lowry's out tonight. Why? You will never know. You will never know.
And you don't have to. It's
He's just out. Deal with it.
But the big story today looks as if it's going to be Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. At least that's how confident the Jets now are that this sucker is happening. And if you think about it, it's got to happen before Wednesday of next week. I mean, the new NFL year, business-wise, begins Wednesday, March 15th. That's why teams have from now until then to cut who they're going to cut, get down to the cap. I mean, you got to be $1 under the cap. And then I think they allow you to conduct your business in which you can go over the cap and you got to get back down to the cap down the road. But you got to be $1 under the cap Wednesday of next week. And so that's why you're going to see a lot more guys get cut and a lot more contracts get restructured over the coming days. But Felipe, you asked what I thought was a really good question. And that's why I wanted to share it with everybody during the break. And for those that don't watch on Twitch, I mean, you get to hear us during the break on Twitch and see us, but obviously those on the radio and the app do not. And Felipe wondered aloud during the break. So if this Aaron Rodgers thing is happening, so how much better or worse is his personnel on the Jets than it was on Green Bay? Because, you know, the thought is the Jets have this really good young roster. And they do at a lot of places. But like at running back, you know, what was it? Hall, the kid they drafted from Iowa State before he got hurt. He was dynamic. But the Packers have, you know, the two-headed monster at running back.
Jones and Dillon.
Right.
Yeah.
So edge
Packers.
Or push.
Well, I mean, the Jets also signed James Robinson.
Yeah, I think Hall's better than, but Robinson did nothing, by the way.
True.
When they got him. Nothing. I mean, they hardly activated him and gave him a workload. And that was after Hall got hurt. So, you know, it's interesting. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers will make everyone better. We get it. But just right now on paper, closer to a push than an advantage?
I mean,
offensive line, both teams had issues. Now, Rodgers definitely makes an offensive line better. He gets rid of it quickly. He'll certainly know how to handle all the blitzes and blocking schemes and all that. I mean, he will make, even if they don't upgrade, which they need to at 2 of their 5 positions, Rodgers will make it significantly better just by showing up. But right now, I mean, the Packers, they were in transition on the line last year. Bakhtiari seemingly can't play anymore. Okay. And the Jets offensive line, even though Mekhi Becton's a mess, and right now you have to consider him a bust. I mean, a push.
Yeah. I mean,
similar.
Let's go 1, 2, 3 wide receiver. Lazard, Watson, and Cobb, who's probably not going to play next year, versus Wilson, Moore, and Braxton Berrios.
Edge Jets.
Yeah,
I would say.
Just because Garrett Wilson is...
I mean, I would say edge Jets, even with Aaron Rodgers with those Packers wide receivers, quite frankly. I would say edge Jets. Now you're going to add Aaron Rodgers to those wide receivers. So I do think that the Jets offense, not just because of who the quarterback will be, but from a personnel standpoint, similar to arguably slightly better. That's just on paper before you know who walks in the door.
Not by much, but yes.
But better.
Yeah.
Better. And I'll say this. I think the best receiver on the Jets has as much or more upside as even Watson with the Packers. I think the running back on the Jets at this stage has more upside than either guy with Green Bay.
No question.
Okay. And so in theory, and they're all young. The wide receivers and the running back for the Jets are all young. Their best days are seemingly ahead of them.
Remember, Ohio State had that tandem of Olave and Garrett Wilson.
Right. Yes.
Studs.
Mm-hmm. So, and if the Jets can get Aaron Rodgers without giving up the 13th overall pick of the draft, which the thought is they will be able to pull off.
Add one more.
Or just even if they
Get
just get
need.
a plug and play offensive lineman.
Right.
Plug them in at left guard and say, thank you very much. Or plug them in at tackle. Maybe they get the big kid from Ohio State at 13. Boom. Okay. And plug them in at tackle. So,
and maybe it's just because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I hate the thought of him in the Jets. I hate it. Whatever.
You're going to have to deal with it. All right, quickly. Clutch Vodka play of the day. What do you got?
All right. We go back to the ice. JT Miller in his 700th career game with a game-winning goal in overtime.
Terry, Lundestrom. Fowler for Anaheim. Miller with a shot. He scores! 20 seconds in. JT Miller wins it in overtime.
700th career game. OT winner.
Good player. All right. They signed him to a long-term deal during the offseason. Probably want to trade him now. But good player, game-winning goal. Our Clutch Vodka play of the day. Speaking of hockey tonight, Lightning back in action at home, taking on Vegas. Panthers will be watching that Islanders-Penguins game very closely, torn as to who they want to win and get the 2 points and not give the other guy any points. And probably rooting for the Islanders because they're closer to the Penguins in the standings.
Something on my Florida bucket list is going to a Tampa Bay Lightning game.
Good time.
Yeah.
Good time. Great organ, great arena, very knowledgeable hockey crowd, expensive beer, but good time.
Of course.
Well, I mean, some places are a little cheaper than others. I'm just saying that
Atlanta.
They don't hold back on the beer prices. That's all. I will say though, big beers.
Ooh, like tall boys.
You can get like 20-ounce beer.
Gotcha.
Type deal. And you pay damn near $1 an ounce. That's all I'm saying. So, which I'm okay with. And of course, I'm a sucker for the large mouth on a beer, kind of like a bass. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com, flgolfcarts.com. Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka play of the day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN play of the day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the play of the day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka play of the day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka play of the day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Guys, I'm trying out my best UL Washington impression today. I think Sophie would shoot me and then break up with me if I ever cut this. I have to cut it at some point, though. And I hate that I'm saying that. But it must be done. Right? Also, I think I asked this the last time I was sick. What do I do? I mean, I know there's tea with honey and lemon. There's gargling hot water with salt. But like anything else, this sucks. What are your hometown, your mom and your dad told you to do this tips? Sleep. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. Although I didn't really sleep a lot last night just because every time I tried to, 'cause I can't breathe through my nose. Every time I tried to breathe through my mouth, the air. Ooh, I heard that one. Bourbon. The air would like get in my throat and I just start coughing. So, hot showers. I took a hot shower this morning. I might take a shot of whiskey when I get home. I got some whiskey. I might take a shot. I might take 3 shots of whiskey and just pass out. Take my world famous nap. I drank some emergency this morning. Apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar. Interesting. Huh. I'm asking for tips on what I should do to cure my fatigue.
Fatigue?
I mean illness.
Tea, lemon. Okay.
Yeah.
Rest, actually, also. And I know you had to work last night.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm trying my best UL Washington impression today, David. The lettuce. So you used to have hair like this? Was it curly?
Yes, very much so. And oh yeah, froed up. No. In my early 20s, I walked around with a fro. Natural.
I get my curls from my mom. My mom has such a nice head of hair. I call her White Oprah.
Got it from my dad.
Dayquil and NyQuil. I don't think I've ever taken NyQuil. It really just knocks you out, does it?
My buddy just texted me. It was helmet hair.
Helmet hair. Right. I wonder what because look, here's the picture. His baseball card. Here,
Oh yeah, totally.
I wonder what his hair looked like after the game.
Check out Billy Sample. Oh yeah, tremendous hair in the late 70s.
Swagadelic.
Right. You all washing not only with the hair, but the toothpick. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's great.
This man looks like the embodiment of 70s baseball. Oh, man. I miss the Expos. I didn't have them around for long in my life, but they have like some of the best logos and like apparel in MLB history. Their colors are literally American colors. Also, was Expos like short for Explorers?
For Montreal?
Yeah. I should look that up.
Sounds right.
But... Yeah. It makes sense. Vicks nasal spray. So I know that you're supposed to rub Vicks like on your upper chest, neck area. I had Sophie run some under my nose. She's like, yeah, that helps you breathing. I don't know if that's real. Is that like a thing? You put Vicks under your on your mustache, kind of?
Apparently, the Expo World Fair in '67
Mm.
was in Canada, and then they named it Expos after that.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes until the top of the hour. 16 or so until we're out of here in Lake City, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte, and Venice. Miller and Moulton, mark off till Monday. The Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. The players underway in Jacksonville, and I can tell you that yesterday there were 40 and 50 mile an hour winds all day in Jacksonville. And we talk about the difference that course plays in March versus May, and it's a lot windier in March. Now, the wind was not expected to be as gusty today as yesterday, but it was expected to be a factor. So you got that course, which is a lot of exact shot making needed because there's so much water on that course. And if you throw in anywhere close to the wind that they had yesterday, I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, yesterday was 3 club wind day minimum. And I was just thinking about how 17, if we were to have a gusty day like yesterday was between now and Sunday, whether depending on the direction of the wind, how difficult 17 and 16 the par 5 and 18 the par 4 with water all down the left side, how fascinating a finish that course would be. So just, for those of you into golf and paying attention to that sort of thing, coverage doesn't begin on Golf Channel and Peacock till noon today and tomorrow, 1 o'clock on the weekends, but just check out the winds. It's been very gusty in the greater Jacksonville area for a few days, and yesterday was unbelievable. Yesterday was like West Texas wind, and that course under those conditions would be brutal. Just saying. Pay attention to that if you're into the golf.
West Texas wind.
Yes. West Texas wind is 2 to 3 club wind. It's flat, and when the wind starts, it like blows for states. Yes, West Texas wind is a 2 to 3 club wind minimum.
Dang.
Yeah, and that's what it was in Jacksonville yesterday. Like, I mean, it was so windy. The 30, 40 minutes getting out of the greater Jacksonville area on the roads, I was watching the wind move cars. That people who weren't paying attention and weren't holding onto their steering wheel the way that they normally do, I was watching the wind blow them into my lane. Yeah, I'm like, got to pay attention today. Yeah. So
that's not fun.
Yeah. So if it's doing that to an automobile, imagine what it'll do to your cut 7 iron. Right. So it's just something to, keep that in mind and check out the weather because that course could be, if it's anywhere close to what the weather was yesterday. So, you mentioned something, which, let's face it, who was the hot, trendy, exciting, sexy team during the offseason last year in the AFC? It was the Miami Dolphins, right? And so now, if the, let me get hot, young, sexy, exciting team in the AFC could turn out to be the Jets, Jets. Because remember, the Dolphins brought in the best defense coordinator that was out there and, moving some things around on the cap. And there's guys that are becoming free agents that the Dolphins are already being linked to. People want to go play for them. The coach is exciting. In theory, Tua comes back and stays healthy. Bada bing, bada boom. And now, if Aaron Rodgers is on the Jets, or the Dolphins go back to the third best team in the division again?
I mean, could they be better than the Bills with that defense?
Well, That's the other thing that we did not believe was going to happen that is seemingly happening. Like one of the things that the Patriots dynasty benefited from, not always, but during long stretches of time, that the rest of the division didn't have their act together. I mean, Buffalo, for most of that dynasty, didn't have their act together. The Jets had their act together at times. You know, Mangini actually had 2 winning records in his 3 years from 06 to 08. Rex took him to back-to-back AFC championship games, beating New England in the playoffs one time. Okay, so from 06 through like 2010, the Jets made the playoffs 4 out of 5 years. Okay, so the Jets had their act together, but they only really had their act together for 5 out of, 15 years out of that dynastic run. How many times did Dolphins have their act together during that run? Like twice?
Not a lot.
Twice,
Yeah.
I think. That's it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not kidding. For 1 year here, 1 year there. That was it. Now, the Patriots were responsible for some of those teams not having their act together, but not all of it. What is it that we thought Buffalo had going for them a couple years ago? Well, the rest of the division didn't have their act together. And now what is happening? For all the issues that the Patriots have and the jokes and what have you, I mean, when your last place team in the division's winning 8 games, that's the last place team. Now, yes, the Jets won 7, but we don't think with Aaron Rodgers, they're the last place team anymore. And so now if you're Buffalo, instead of looking at that division and, well, they're going to go 5-1 or 6-0 in the division every year, blah, blah, blah. Well, now you're looking at it going, man, you got to be pretty good to go 4-2.
The Patriots won 8 games, and I don't even think they have their act together.
I don't disagree, and I don't think most Patriot fans disagree. And the other thing, if Aaron Rodgers ends up a Jet, which it certainly appears as if he's going to, is, man, does it look like Bill and the Patriots are trying to win totally differently than everybody else. Look at the weaponry that Buffalo, the Jets, and the Dolphins will show up with on game day. And right now, before free agency, before any trades, before the draft, look at the weaponry that New England gets off the bus with. Now, obviously, there's different ways to win games, defense, the whole deal. But, I mean, the Patriots, and this is what their fans have been saying now for a while, and they actually were saying it late in the dynastic run, that Tom was carrying them on offense, that there was not much around Tom. And part of the reason why he wanted to leave was he wanted to go someplace where there was just a little more talent on offense. You're making this a little too difficult on me.
Right.
And clearly he goes to Tampa Bay, and it was noticeable how much more talent he was playing with on offense than what he had been playing with for a few years in New England, despite the fact that they're winning 12-plus games a year during those years. But look at what the Jets, and remember, the Jets, we think, are going to hold on to their first-round draft pick, 13th overall. They could if they wanted to. I don't believe they would, but there's a good chance the best wide receiver in the draft will still be on the board when the Jets draft at 13. Whether you think it's an Ohio State guy or whoever you think it is. But there's a good chance that the very best running back / wide receiver in the draft is available when the Jets are drafting at 13.
A franchise drafting a top wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers? No.
That's something that
unheard of.
Didn't happen to him the whole time he was in Green Bay.
But that's true.
But I do think that, and Bill has had some years where he's gone heavy into free agency. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. He did so 2 years ago when they lost Tom. He went heavy into free agency. They won 10 games and made the playoffs. Now, unfortunately, a lot of those players that they signed did not have good years last year. And now they're either unloading some of those guys or, we need them to bounce back or else we're in trouble. But Bill has not gotten it right at the wide receiver position for a long time. I mean, his biggest draft mistakes are first, second round wide receivers. And he's just flat missed. And you look at the weaponry that New England will now be fighting with in the AFC East. And here's the other thing. I mean, they drafted this guy in the first round. He's a first-round quarterback. But if the Jets add Aaron Rodgers, I mean, let's be objective here. Tua or Mac Jones?
Tua.
Okay, now some would choose Mac Jones.
No.
Yes, they would, because you know why? Mac Jones plays most every game.
Not this past season.
Well, he missed, what, 3? I mean, Tua missed more than that. Tua has not been able to successfully complete 3 years, any of the 3 years he's been in the league. Now, I'm with you. I would choose Tua over Mac Jones. But the point is, if you're New England, if the Jets are really adding Aaron Rodgers, man, oh man. Miami's got, you could argue, Miami actually has the best skill in the division.
They have a better roster than the Jets, I think.
I don't know.
It's close. Okay, but let me ask you something. Because they just restructured Bradley Chubb's contract.
Who, by the way, did nothing after he was acquired.
Right.
Now, the hope is that the Bradley Chubb who was in Denver, when Vic was in Denver, that Vic can get that out of him.
Right.
That's why they made him the highest paid defense coordinator in the league.
They hired Vic Fangio. They cleared up $14 million in cap space. We talked about it earlier. But if they can get a guy, perhaps Derrick Henry, they're better than the Jets.
Listen, it's sexy, but do the Dolphins need a guard more than they need Derrick Henry? Do the Dolphins need a linebacker or 2 more than they need Derrick Henry?
Right. Spend that money on a line.
Do they need a safety with some of the cuts that they're going to make?
Byron Jones. Yeah.
You know, I mean, how do you want to spend your resources here? Do you need a running back? What, to me, this goes back to Mike McDaniel. Are you going to be San Francisco 49ers, Mike McDaniel? Or are you going to be the guy who called the plays in Miami last year, Mike McDaniel? Because if that Mike McDaniel shows back up again, you don't need a franchise running back. Okay. But
it's fine.
But if the guy who got the job talking about what it all we did in San Francisco and the running game and this, that, and the other thing, well, then that guy with Derrick Henry would be awesome, because then you're going to run the ball more. And I guess the reason you didn't run it nearly as much this year is because you didn't think you were worth a damn running it. So you figured you'd throw it instead, because you do have 2 number 1 wide receivers, and not a lot of teams have that.
Well, I mean, I guess for the concern of his health, wouldn't you kind of want Tua to throw a little less?
Oh, no, I'd want him to throw a lot less.
Yeah.
I'd also love to have a running game to actually bring play action into the fold. Imagine if they could hold a linebacker and Tyreek Hill could get one-on-one against a member of the secondary faster than even he did last year when he was one of the 3 best wide receivers in the game. But now going back to, and we got a lot of Patriot fans all throughout the state of Florida listening right now. Think of the burden on general manager Bill Belichick here. If now Aaron Rodgers is getting added to the Jets, and where you're at quarterback, at receiver, at running back, and yeah, there's more ways to win. We all get it. But right now, the number 1 way to win in the NFL is with offense. And you are not well prepared right now. You're not. And let's assume Bill O'Brien's going to make Mac Jones much better. I mean, Pat Kerwin said it on this show a couple of weeks ago, that Bill O'Brien, when he interviewed with the Patriots, said, listen, I watched you guys last year. The stuff I did with Mac at Alabama, you didn't do most of it. He goes, I got 10 things I'll do with Mac right now that'll make him a lot better than he was last year, just by running stuff we ran on Saturdays. So, that's the other thing. For as much as Vic is expected to raise the level of the Dolphins defense, Bill O'Brien could do the same thing with the Patriots offense. I just don't think he has as much to work with. He's still having to make chicken you-know-what, with chicken you-know-what.
It's kind of sad because on paper, the Dolphins have a good defense, but that did not translate on the football field last year at all.
And the defensive coordinator took the blame.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Just like the offensive staff took the blame in New England. But you want to talk about a sexy division. The word is Aaron Rodgers is okay with joining the Jets. And the Jets are starting to leak the word out to their media friends that this is going to happen.
I am cautiously optimistic.
Miller and Moulton. The bonus hour begins in a handful of minutes at the top of the hour with Mark Dominik, former Tampa Bay Bucks general manager. We'll talk again tomorrow, Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here. Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
By the way, did you watch the video of Katie rolling his ankle?
No.
Look, I'll pull it up right now. Apparently he left in a boot, so not looking so good. Here, peep the screen. Look at that.
I rolled it on the way up.
Look, here's the screenshot.
That's not good.
That's a bent ankle right there. Wow. I just watched a video of Fred VanVleet, like, talking about because he got teed up last game, and the referee, Ben Taylor, was apparently awful. And he just kindly explained in an not safe for work way about why the refs were bad. It was probably the best explanation I've ever heard in my entire life. And he just casually, very casually dropped some F bombs and some other cuss words. I'm like, wow. I almost want to get the audio and bleep the cuss words.
That's a tough one, Guillermo. I'd probably go Daniel because of his ability to run. But yeah, buried in bourbon. The reason that DePaul Creighton game was the #1 college basketball game of the year is it aired, I believe, on Thanksgiving, and it was either before or after an NFL game. And so they just got the carryover. And that's why it got the rating that it got.
Hell, I remember tuning into that game.
Right. That people tuned in getting ready for the Cowboys game, I think it was.
I was like, ooh, college hoops. Here we go.
Remember, got to call Mark.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton on this Thursday. Mark will be back on Monday. Thanks so much for being with us. Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. If you've missed any part of the show, we had Mark Packer on an hour ago. We had Dalton Miller, Pro Football Network, on at around 7:30. If you miss any of our interviews or any of our show, download it, floridasportsnetwork.com, floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark Dominik, former Bucs general manager, to join us coming up in just a moment. Aaron Rodgers is now expected, that is the word, is expected to become a New York Jet. That is the word that is coming out right now. Today is Bubble Day in college basketball, in many of the big conference tournaments, in which many a team is going to play their way in or out, depending on the result of games played today, much like Wisconsin likely played their way out of the NCAA tournament, losing to Ohio State in their Big Ten tournament matchup yesterday. Back to football. Mark Dominik, kind enough to join us. He talks the NFL for both Stadium Sports and on SiriusXM's NFL Radio. You can follow Mark on Twitter, Mark Dominik NFL. That's Dominik without the C, Mark Dominik NFL. Mark, it's David. Good to talk to you again. How are you?
David, good to talk to you too. Doing well on a Thursday morning, watching things unfold in the National Football League. Always fun.
All right. Here's a simple question. How good on paper are the Jets on March 9th and 10th if they add Aaron Rodgers? Because we all know they got the 13th pick of the draft, potentially, free agency, trades. But just adding Aaron Rodgers to the current Jets roster, where are they then to you?
Yeah, I think they move into second place. I still think they're going to be an ounce behind the Buffalo Bills. Because you realize, David, as you know, if you're getting Aaron Rodgers, you're probably not going to end up with that 13th pick. You're not going to be able to add a lot more pieces to the puzzle of this football team, but you're certainly going to jump and I think leapfrog the Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots. But I think you're still going to be nestled maybe a game or two behind the Buffalo Bills, which will put you in the postseason. And I think that's something that obviously for New York fans, that's what they want. And I don't disagree if they can make this move. I don't disagree with it. You only have such a window
And clearly, when you think about Joe Douglas and how many years he's been GM now, with Robert Saleh now going into his third year, you realize that if you don't get it done this year, you're probably fired. You're probably going to move on. So make every move, put the chips in. We saw what happened when, Minnesota gets Brett Favre and, they have some success, or, certainly when you see Carson Palmer go to Arizona and suddenly they become a terrible team, they go to the playoffs, and it's a different jump when you can put a veteran quarterback in that football team.
And of course, we could make a Joe Douglas joke here, in that you should probably take his first round pick away from him, because he hasn't been particularly good with those, but he's been tremendous once you can get him after the first round. But do you think it will take a first rounder? This is fascinating, right? The Jets are desperate. If I was the Jets and you were on the other end of the phone, I'm salivating. But at the same time, I also know that you have already moved on. You've wiped Rodgers off your big board, and you're figuring out life in the pursuit of happiness without him. So how much leverage do the Packers still have here?
I think the Packers have to get that first round pick, because once if they move Aaron Rodgers off that roster, and they get to that point, you got to realize that the cap implication is so tremendous for them that they're going to need young players to be able to be on this football team to help them be able to kind of navigate, not having that space, not having that room anymore for the next year because of all the dead cap charges they're going to get. And I think that's the thing, where as many picks as they can get out of Aaron Rodgers, that's what they need, because that's the only way you're going to be able to navigate this next 2 years for that football team, and for them to be able to, get to the position where we can survive post Aaron Rodgers. But I don't think the Green Bay Packers will, if they do this move.
Listen, I don't have to tell you, you were in the league 20 plus years. The 70s were dominated really by the AFC, with the exception of the Cowboys. The 80s were dominated by the NFC. But Mark, if Aaron Rodgers now goes to the Jets, you look at the teams and the quarterbacks in the AFC versus the teams and the quarterbacks on paper in the NFC. Has the league ever been this unbalanced at the top heavy position?
I don't think so. I think this would be as impressive as it's ever been when you think about the AFC versus NFC. I mean, think of the NFC South too, David, right? There's no real quarterback. Now we have Derek Carr, in the South. But if you think about the, NFC South, if you think about the NFC North, Kirk Cousins, maybe Justin Fields, if everything goes well. I mean, it's not like it's a who's who of guys. And I think that's the amazing thought about it all, is how, the NFC is certainly a much easier path to get to the postseason. And I think that's why Derek Carr was really pushing for the Saints, even over the Jets, even though the Jets, I think, always had Aaron Rodgers in their front pocket, and Derek Carr was kind of their back pocket option.
He's Mark Dominik. He talks the NFL for Stadium and SiriusXM's NFL Radio. You can follow Mark on Twitter, Mark Dominik NFL, Mark Dominik without the C, NFL. All right, let's talk about your former team here for a second. I've been advocating where they are cap-wise and in the division that they're in, they should actually just punt right now. They should retool, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, and in a massive way in 2023. And that, to me, includes trading Mike Evans, who I think's a Hall of Famer. All right.
Mike put up the stats. You're right.
If you were looking at the Bucs right now, and we all know the division's very winnable, the whole deal. But what do? Are you going forward if you're Tampa right now, or are you advocating going backwards?
Well, I think you have to, bite the bullet this year, and you realize that when trying to go all in every year with Tom Brady, and no complaints to that, right? You make the postseason every year, you get a Super Bowl ring, you almost go to 2 Super Bowls, and then you get punted early last year. So you got to give credit, like, hey, look, if you're going to do it, go for it. And they got one. And that's the most important thing. But I think ownership certainly is well aware of, like, what the kind of situation is, knowing their salary cap guy, Mike Greenberg, and what he can do. I'm sure the combine was not fun for him. He was probably walking around and saying, hey, you're taking a pay cut, we're going to let you go. We're taking a pay cut, we're going to let you go, because that's the only thing they can do, is kind of like slash this team down. And then you've got to figure out who are the 5 or 6 guys that we feel like are really important to keep around here through this process. And some of them are draft picks that haven't hit free agency. Some of them are, like what you're saying, it could be Mike Evans. Like, we're going to hold on to Mike Evans, but we're going to trade Chris Godwin. Or it might be, hey, we're going to keep Chris Godwin and trade away Mike Evans. Certainly it has got to be in the realm of possibilities based off of where their salary cap situations are. But I think Tampa has to do a reset, but it can only be about a 2-year reset, or that's going to be it for, Todd Bowles and Jason Light, because, Jason has been there for almost a decade. And, there's one thing to get Tom Brady, and that's awesome. And that obviously changed everything. but you can't go back into, the 6-11 world for a couple of years and sit there and say, we're still building. And Kyle Trask, quite frankly, has to show something this year because of where they've drafted him a couple of years ago.
Well, and also, while it's a hardy fan base, it's not always a hardy, we're going to show up and pay money, go to the games fan base. And so you could probably only afford 1 year at the box office of retooling before you have empty seats again at Ray J. Don't you think with Devin White, they're in the same situation Chicago was in with Roquan last year, and they decided, nah, we ain't paying them, we're punting. Okay. I mean, Tampa, I think, is in the same position. What do you do?
Yeah, I think they're not going to pay him. I think they're just going to be patient there. I think they're going to try to just play this thing out and buy another year of it. I don't think that this is going to be someone that they're going to look. I think early in his career, he was playing great and was a difference maker and dominating, and still has that ability and that capability. But I just think, again, like you're talking about, David, where they're sitting right now from a salary cap perspective, this is sit on your hands time. This isn't going to be aggressive. This isn't trying to do extensions. Only unless it's going to create salary cap space for you are you doing anything. But you also realize that every time you rob Peter and try to pay Paul, you're going to be in trouble. So it's a situation where, again, ownership's very well aware of where they are, and they've probably put together a plan. That's what I would have done as a GM. Is like, here's our plan. Here's our 2-year plan. Here's the pieces we have to move through. Here's the pieces we have to. But here's our core in 2024, 2025. That is going to rebuild the Bucs. And thankfully, we're in a division where we can survive that. So even if Derek Carr comes in and has a good year or two and they go 11-6 and win the division, as long as Carolina, as long as, Atlanta don't find that, franchise quarterback, hopefully for the Bucs' sake, they got a chance to jump back in there in 1 or 2 years, just because no one's really placed that good quarterback in for the next decade. It's kind of like you're seeing the NFC North, as we started with. If Justin Fields can really take the big step like we saw Jalen Hurts, which I don't know if he can do that, but if he can, the North could become the Chicago Bears for the next decade based off the quarterbacks that are there now currently.
How much differently are you and your staff judging quarterbacks now versus how you judged them 10 years ago? Because offenses are so different. We're running quarterbacks the way we've never run them before. Guys who were clearly college quarterbacks are now potentially, oh no, that can be a franchise NFL quarterback. How different is it if you're running the show now?
Well, I think what we've seen is, from when John Schneider drafted Russell Wilson, watching the success of Drew Brees through all those years, the height thing, Kyler Murray coming in the National Football League, and it's not really been an issue in terms of being electric and dynamic. You've seen speed become such a big tool in the legs of Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson versus, Daniel Jones, using their legs to find ways to make things happen. I think you're looking at the athletes now and just saying, what are the throwing mechanics and how good are they? But I think that's what's unique about it. I think the league continues to evolve around the talents of the quarterbacks, and that's the way it's got to be, because that's the people that are going to make a difference. Whether you're a good head coach or fired, it's going to be the difference between whether you keep your GM job or you're not. And so it comes down to that quarterback spot and what you can do with them. And I think that's why you see, Bryce Young being 5'10". That's not a big deal. Bryce Young's real weight, I don't think it's 203, 204. I think that's artificial weight. But, at the same point, if he can get to 190, it makes you a little bit more comfortable. You can put real weight on him at 190 and he can stay there. Maybe he can do it because he's done it at the college level. But that's the decision you have to make, is the Bryce Young weight versus, the CJ Stroud and the performance he's had, as a young man at Ohio State, and certainly what he did at the Combine.
Mark, as always, appreciate your time and your insight. I know you're busy. Hopefully we can do this again down the road. Miss doing the draft with you.
I know, David. Good to hear your voice, though, man, and love to talk to you again. Have a great week, man.
Mark Dominik, 20 years in the NFL, talking football these days, Stadium Sports, SiriusXM's NFL Radio. Follow him on Twitter, Mark Dominik, no C, Dominik, Mark Dominik NFL. That's how you can follow Mark on Twitter. It's funny, Jason Light before Tom Brady. I could put Mark Dominik's record as GM and drafting and what have you, and I could put Jason Light's record as GM and drafting. Not so sure Dominik wasn't the better GM. But they kept Jason Light around long enough to get a Tom Brady, and that always helps.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here. Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone, on 5th Avenue in Naples.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
You got the today was the day when that Mark left you, right?
No.
Oh, I think it's in the backpack.
Okay.
Yeah. in the description of the podcasts that I'm posting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm labeling these episodes as Philly and Moulton. Ah, crap. At BK, have it your way. You rule.
Yeah. Gators have Mississippi State there. Bourbon. One of the many bubble games today.
Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark off until Monday. I think they tee you off within the hour. Hit him straight there, buddy. Hit him straight. Felipe, even though he is under the weather, he is toughing it out, although he is losing coloring by the segment, beginning to cough more. He is soliciting, what is it I do about a cold in the Twitch chat room? I mean, you're 22 years old. You've had a cold before.
I know.
You're acting like this is a first-time thing.
It just sucks. Okay, I have work this whole weekend.
I know you do. This just in. You know,
when it comes to work and weekends,
you got to suck it up. All right, you're in the wrong profession. All right.
No.
When you first started, you were still going to school, and I looked at you and I said, "It is not too late for you to do something else with your life." I did. You come on.
No.
I did.
I told that to someone else the other day.
All right. And I spent months looking at you going, listen, you seem like a smart guy. You're a supportive, loving family. Okay. You can go a different route. Besides, you went to college for communications. You know, that's a very broad major.
Not journalism.
Well, change that. It just lie. Say it's communications instead, because you took the same damn courses. Trust me.
Essentially.
All right. But yeah, I told you, the whole world works Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You will spend your whole life doing what? Working nights and weekends. And you have to be willing to accept it. Don't fall victim to, oh, it's fun and it's exciting. It's a bunch of games. Yes, no life. You now are in a relationship and you have to explain to her, I'm working a morning shift. Okay, that works out well. Okay, then I'm working nights with all these FGCU games. Okay, and then I'm working weekends because of all these FGCU games. Okay, that goes over really big, doesn't it, in a relationship?
Well, yes, but what's
really big.
What's good is that her current job and my job kind of go in tandem.
Okay, that's outstanding. Okay, here's the thing: as you get older, okay, one of you is going to get a normal job. Right. Okay. And the likelihood is it will be her.
Yeah.
And you'll still be making no money working all these glorious shifts.
Traveling weekends.
Well, yes. That'll also go over big. Trust me. The you leaving town, okay, that's cute when you're dating. Okay. Boy. And then that goes away very quickly. All right, here. So I was just talking with Mark Dominik and talking about how top heavy the AFC is with quarterbacks compared to the NFC. And it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to join the AFC list of quarterbacks. That's ridiculous, by the way. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want to get into the whole let's rank them. You just name them is enough. So a buddy of mine sent me a text that said, how about if we go like 1986 and you take a look at how top-heavy the AFC was with quarterbacks versus how top-heavy the NFC was with quarterbacks, and yet which conference dominated the decade? It was the NFC. And I could go through the list for you. But, even though they were younger, you had Elway Marino, Jim Kelly, Boomer Esiason, Warren Moon, Bernie Kosar, and aging Dan Fouts. Dan had about 2 years left. And 86 was the year that the decline began. But, that's who the AFC quarterbacks were in 1986 versus the NFC had basically Joe Montana.
That was it.
Because if you look at the rest, that now Jim McMahon, but he was then 86 was when he started to get hurt. But you had Montana, McMahon, and Phil Simms. Okay. And otherwise, you're looking at Tommy Kramer starts to fall apart. Tommy Kramer's falling apart by 86. Neil Lomax doesn't have much left for the Cardinals. Dallas had an aging Danny White. Washington to turn things over to Jay Schrader because Theismann got hurt the year before. Jaworski was in his last year with Philadelphia. They were just about to replace him with Randall Cunningham. Yet, think of how the game was played in the mid-'80s, with the exception of Bill Walsh in San Francisco, versus how the game is played now.
Run the damn ball.
And defense and physicality. And you could be the dominant conference because you had 4 teams, 3 of whom physically just kicked the tar out of you when you showed up. Kicked the tar out of you physically. And that was enough with the rule changes and the style of play and the whole deal. You look at that now, the modern rules and how the game has evolved. And imagine an NFC with Joe Montana, and then, Phil Simms turned into a very good quarterback, but by 86, he had only had 2 good years out of 7, by the way. Tommy Kramer, inconsistent and about to fade to oblivion. Jim McMahon, very good, about to start getting hurt every year. Neil Lomax near the end. Danny White near the end. Ron Jaworski near the end. Jay Schrader, he's going to be around for an hour and a half. And that's kind of, in a way, like the NFC now. Only there's no Montana. The Montana's going to the Jets.
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, so, now you look at the NFC in 86, okay, and you're looking at Jim McMahon, Phil Simms as arguably the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFC if we had moved Montana. Well, what are you looking at now in the NFC?
Jalen Hurts.
And
Kirk
Cousins.
Dak Prescott.
Maybe. But it also
Jared Goff.
Well, hey, listen, if Goff takes Detroit on a deep playoff run, that'd be 2 times in 6 years. He did go to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, who we're leaving out, it's funny, guy gets hurt for half a season and we forget about him.
Right.
But Matthew Stafford's still around. But you're looking at Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, probably your top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC right now. And if you took Montana and moved him in 1986 to an AFC team, like we're about to move Aaron Rodgers to an AFC team, you would have been left with a conference with Jim McMahon, Phil Simms, and I don't know who number 3 is, to be honest with you, in 1986. Because also you had Vinny Testaverde, who was a rookie. You had Steve Young, who's kind of wandering, having just arrived in the NFL. And they're both in Tampa, I believe, because Steve hadn't been traded to the Niners yet. Okay. But because of how differently the game was played then, it didn't matter that. There's a list of Hall of Famers.
Well, who are some of the running backs in the NFC?
Well, but John Elway, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Warren Moon, Dan Fouts, who hadn't started declining yet but was about to in an hour. And then you throw in Boomer Esiason and Bernie Kosar. I think Boomer won an MVP in 88. That was the AFC quarterback class in 1986, and they were just showing up and getting destroyed in the Super Bowl.
And most of those quarterbacks spent most of, if not their entire careers, in the AFC.
Yeah, and they're all Elway's entering his fourth year. Marino's entering his fourth year. Jim Kelly entering his fourth year. Boomer Esiason entering his third year. Warren Moon, his third year in the NFL. Kosar's fourth year in the NFL.
That is an interesting comparison. It's very similar.
And yet, because that's how differently the game is today versus how it was. The NFC was the dominant conference in the mid-'80s, throughout the 80s, really. And the AFC had all the good young quarterbacks. Legendary Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And in fact, the NFC went on a 15-year run of dominance. And yet now we're looking at it in which we're trying to think, when's the next NFC team that's going to win a Super Bowl? Because look at what's going to emerge in theory from the AFC for the foreseeable future. A terrific team with a great quarterback in all likelihood. David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6, and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah. I'd say D-Hop's a Hall of Famer. Right? I think. I mean, you're the best wide receiver in the NFL for a 4-year span. Are you a Hall of Famer? Adam wants his Jags respect. I am very excited for Calvin Ridley. Adam just wants his Jags respect.
Oh, God. Enough. Besides, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about the Jags. We're going to rule that division for the next 2 years.
True. Do the Jags and the Dolphins play this year?
I don't know.
I don't think so. With all due respect, Adam, I don't think I'm ready to say that the Jags are better than the. I mean, it's close between the Jags and the Dolphins. We shall see. Did he give you a good, bad, ugly too? Or are we just not doing it?
No, I got it.
Okay. What's Konya? Konya sounds like a
Is it cognac?
Kony. Kony.
No.
That sounds like a cuss word in Spanish. Coño. Sorry. Sorry for offending.
You
all.
talking Konya or Kenya? Where are you?
What is Konya?
Andy's traveling the world watching us and listening to us. A city in Turkey.
What?
Are you guys okay? Well, no, where in Turkey? Like affected by the earthquake or?
Oh my gosh, that's right. There was a freaking earthquake there. It's just like last season in the sense where it's like name all the bad teams in the AFC. The Texans, probably the Titans. Who else? You know, it's crazy. It honestly sucks to be in the AFC. It's terrible.
Damn, it's the breaks.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
It's 22 minutes before the hour is up. Got 17 until we're out of here. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. So I need to start paying attention to this segment of the show a little bit more often if I'm going to have to,
Well, you used to do this.
I used to do one of the elements.
True.
I have never done the good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, this is going to sound really weird.
I have always done what's on tap. Well, I shouldn't say always. I did it. Mark did it during our – no, today was the day when. Mark did it during our first act. I did it during our second act. Mark is back doing it during our third act. Here's, by the way, how this came to be. Since I do the starting five at 6:38, I figured, listen, if one segment's on me, then one segment's got to be on you. So that's why it was kind of like, so you do what's on tap, good, bad, and ugly. And today was the day when. And he's like, oh, okay. So, and he wanted to go back to doing today was the day when. So I'm like, good, here, take it. So that's why I do starting five 3 hours ago, and he does this segment. But with Mark not here, okay, I don't do good, bad, and ugly.
Do you want me to do it?
You got it?
Do you, you have it?
No. I don't have good, bad, and ugly.
I don't have it either.
I have what's on to happen. Today was the day when.
I asked you if you had it, and you said yes.
Oh, well, I made a mistake. I lied. Okay.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Screwed up. All right. I don't have a good, bad, and ugly. When I have filled in and done it, I make it a sports good, bad, and ugly. And some people like it, and some people think that's really weak.
It's possible.
All right. Well, a good, bad, and ugly is easy.
I mean, ugly would be Kevin Durant rolling his ankle.
It's funny. I was going to make that the bad. Okay. Kevin Durant rolls his ankle in warmups. Okay. And doesn't even play in what is supposed to be his home debut.
Walks out of the arena in a boot.
All right. I would say the ugly is Wisconsin losing to Ohio State yesterday in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. If they had won that game, most people felt they were in the tournament. All right. That's a below 500 Ohio State team. And I know Ohio State had been playing better. And I know technically they were a 2-point favorite. I don't know what to tell you. All right. That was not. I'll tell you what. I'll give an ugly to how Syracuse handled getting rid of Jim Boeheim.
Yeah.
I did not. I have no problems at all with the decision to move on from Jim Boeheim. None. That was as unceremonious. We're moving on from a legendary coach,
Hall of Famer,
as we have seen in sports, honestly, in which the Hall of Fame coach wanted to stay and they were forcing him out. Okay, fine. Bobby wanted one more year at Florida State. Don Shula didn't want to leave, when Huizenga told him it was time to leave. We can go down the line. But to 5 minutes after his final press conference to say, Jim, thanks. By the way, here's the new coach. It was kind of like, we are so done with you. We can't get rid of you fast enough. And it's not like his final season was the season that that Patrick Ewing just threw on the board at Georgetown.
What a forgettable tenure, Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, huh?
He had the one run where they won the Big East tournament. They won 4 games. What was it? Like 3-4 years ago? 2019, I think it was. I think it was pre-pandemic. And they won the Big East tournament. Went in as like an 8 seed and went on a run.
But other than that,
Georgetown went 7-25 this year. All right. And by the way, even Georgetown didn't 5 minutes after the game yesterday fire Patrick Ewing. I mean, they'll probably do it. If not today, they'll wait till the Big East tournament's over and do it Sunday or Monday. All right. I mean, Syracuse, 5 minutes after Boeheim was done with the presser. He's done.
Thanks for 47 years.
Here's the coach. Let's move on. Wow. I would actually give that the ugly. Durant the bad.
I think I'm with you.
As for the good, well, I don't know. I mean, can I give it a little early? The Jets acquiring Aaron Rodgers? No?
Well, that's a proclamation that's not official, but that's the word on the street.
The good, I guess, would be the 3 teams that earned the automatic spots in the NCAA tournament yesterday. Yeah. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, Colgate, and Montana State.
You want to do this other thing, though?
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
All right, let's do it.
It's time for someone to take back this segment, if for no other reason than to stop David from talking about Meghan and Harry. Here's
David Moulton
with Today Was the Day When.
Nice. 1933, 90 years ago today, FDR calls Congress into special session, beginning the 100 days. They talk about when a president starts their presidency and what are they going to do in their first 100 days of office. It started 90 years ago with FDR. Now, I got to admit, we're in the middle of the Great Depression. He said, got to change some things around here. Can agree or disagree with the policies that he did, but at least he went right to it. And they plowed a lot through in those first 100 days. Babe Ruth was offered a bunch of money by the Reds on this day in 1936 to make a comeback. He said, no, I'm good. I am retired. The Mexican Baseball League on this day in 1946 offered Ted Williams $500,000 to play in their baseball league. He had just come back from the war, his first war that he would fight in, by the way. And he was in his mid-20s, and the Mexican Baseball League offered him $500,000 to play in it. Do you know what the top player was making in Major League Baseball in 1946?
Oh, geez.
It was DiMaggio, and he was the first one to make six figures.
I was about to say like 100,000. Yeah.
And Teddy Ballgame was offered $500,000. I mean, to give you an idea, 20 years later, almost, Koufax and Drysdale were holding out on the Dodgers to each make $100,000. I mean, basically, this is LIV, right?
Right.
This is the Mexican Baseball League saying we're going to give you $500,000 in Teddy Ballgame going, no, you're the Mexican Baseball League. I don't know what to tell you.
Ted Williams has one of the best baseball reference pages in the history. His numbers are stupid.
Well, his numbers are far better than that when you consider that he missed five full seasons due to serving in not one but two wars. And he missed those 5 years when he was in his young prime and then old prime.
After his fourth season.
I have said quite a few times, you can make the argument he's the second greatest player of all time. Because I think you have to acknowledge Ruth is the best player of all time for not only the numbers he put up, but for how obscenely beyond what anyone else had ever done in the history of the sport before him. No one's ever dominated a sport, quite frankly, the way Babe Ruth dominated baseball. Not even Tiger in golf, not Jim Brown in the NFL. No. What Babe Ruth did when he was playing, the most home runs in a season, the first time he led the league in home runs, it was with 11. 11. He would go on to hit 60 and 59 in 2 seasons. I mean, that's how what he did to the baseball record book was obscene. But Ted Williams, who doesn't have 3,000 hits, Ted Williams, who would have had 700 home runs if he had not served in 2 wars. And oh, by the way, he didn't just serve in 2 wars the way that others served in 2 wars. He was John Glenn's wingman in one of those 2 wars. He was a decorated pilot with a staggering number of combat missions.
I'm fine with that. Top 2 baseball player of all. I mean,
he would have had 3,600 hits and 711 home runs if you had taken the average numbers of his 3 years before he first went to war and then the 3 years after he first went to war. If you took his average numbers before and after he served and just plugged them in for 5 full seasons that he missed, think about that. 3,600 hits, 711 home runs. Yeah.
How does Ruth have only 1 MVP?
You could tell you're such an NBA fan. NBA fans are obsessed with MVP awards.
I mean, it's the player.
It's all an NBA fan is talking about nowadays is why Djokovic winning his third, or not Djokovic, but Joker there winning his third MVP.
Which he deserves, by the way.
Yeah, and it's all anybody in the league's talking about. And in all the other sports, nobody gives a damn about the award. And the NBA is obsessed with it. All right, let me get through this quickly. Where was I? 1959, the Barbie doll makes its debut today.
Wow.
Yeah, 64 years ago. 11 inches tall with a waterfall of blonde hair. There you go. Dan Rather becomes the primary anchorman today in 1981. U2 releases The Joshua Tree today in 87. George Burns died on this day in 96 at 100. All right. 1997, Notorious B.I.G. killed in Los Angeles 26 years ago today. 25 years ago today, Dr. Dre signs this rapper, Eminem. Bobby Fischer was born on this day 80 years ago. Mike Leach would have been 62 today. Celebrating birthdays today, Bert Campaneris, Danny Sullivan, Mark D'Antonio, Linda Fiorentino. Watch Vision Quest. Get back to me. Terry Mulholland, Benito Santiago. The Boz is 58 today. And that was today was the day when.
Who's the boss?
OMG. Oh, wow. Brian Bosworth. It's kind of a big deal in the mid to late 80s.
Did that just make you feel old?
Yes. And made me realize just how young you are. Yes.
Come on.
No, I'm serious.
Well, it'd be like
There's also a bit of a cultural phenomenon, so I'm a little surprised that at some point in time that you didn't hear of him. So feel free. Okay, look, as Logic Man saying in our Twitch chat room, Felipe, they did a 30 for 30 on the Boz. They did. Watch it. I actually think you'll love it.
Brandon Boz?
Brian Bosworth.
Oh, Brian Boz.
Please stop while you're behind.
Okay, yeah.
Stop while you're behind. All right, here we go. Got 6 games in the NBA tonight. Orlando's at home for Utah. The TNT double dip is Golden State, Memphis early, no John Morant, and Knicks, Sacramento late, a game that TNT added. 2 weeks ago, they said, we want to run the Knicks, Sacramento game instead of whatever was originally scheduled. It's just the second time the Kings are on national television this year. By the way, for you Heat fans out there, Felipe, Brooklyn's at Milwaukee. You want Milwaukee to keep winning. You're 3 back of the Nets to try to get out of the play-in. 11 games in the NHL tonight. Lightning are home for Vegas. Some of the other headliners, Islanders and Penguins. Best player in the game, Connor McDavid. And best team in the game, Boston. And the LA Kings and Colorado Avalanche are facing one another. That could be a Western Conference Finals preview. College hoops, it's a great day. I mean, it really is, and it starts early. Canes are playing at noon against Wake Forest. Rutgers, Michigan is at noon. Losers out. That we know for sure of not just the Big Ten tournament. Gators are playing Mississippi State at 1 o'clock. Mississippi State's a bubble team. And the Gators hoping for a Cinderella run. South Florida is playing East Carolina at 12:30. FAU in action 6:30 tonight. I think if they win tonight, they're in. I don't think they can afford a first round for them loss in the Conference USA tournament. 6:30 FAU playing Western Kentucky. Penn State, Illinois at 6:30. Figure it's a play-in game for Penn State, right? Arkansas, Auburn at 7. Auburn with the wins probably in. Arizona State, USC at 11 o'clock. Arizona State probably gets in with a win. And if they do win, do they get USC dangerously close to the bubble? I would like to think not. USC's already beaten Arizona State twice, but who knows? Carolina, Virginia at 7 o'clock. We all know the Tar Heels need to make a big ACC tournament run. UCF in action against SMU at 2:30.
Okay, I just looked up who Brian Bosworth is. I do know who he is. And I also remember a scene in the U 30 for 30 where didn't the Hurricanes like beat the crap out of him or something like that?
He got suspended for the national championship game because of steroid use. And they beat Oklahoma to win the national title.
Looks like he took roids.
Mm-hmm, he did. Miller and Moulton. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Florida Sports Network. Napa Auto Parts and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here. Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on Fifth Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Life Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlifetransportation.com.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something